The city streets are unusually deserted. The sky dyed red by the sunset contributes to create a tense atmosphere. A public address system announcement confirms a subway strike. All citizens in the area must evacuate immediately. A young man with headphones listens to music and performs repair work while on a rope. It is necessary to paint some parts of the building. The young man checked his work and said everything was ready. The music on his headphones keeps on playing. The hunter's pub called the was finished. There was still not a soul in the street except this man. The young man said that now all that remained was place the furniture and the premises could open. The young man looked around, and only then did he realize that no one was around. Was surprised, as it was located in the center of the capital city, where everyone had gone. The boy took off his headphones, and only then did he heard the sound of a siren and warnings coming out of a. Even gave a burst of surprise, and said his heart almost ran out of his chest. They had really stoned the dungeon. The young man looked at his headphones and said they were right, by praising its noise cancellation function. Up to that point I had heard nothing but music. Modern technology is pure magic. Through the headphones, you can't hear anything about the noise or the commotion outside. Suddenly a horde of zombies appeared around the corner. The boy was surprised. Could things be really that bad if so many of those failures loitered around? Had to do something. The young man looked around in search of a suitable object. The young man was surprised. What hunters were doing? Where they had all gone? Had within his reach a bat and a lever. The young man the lever tightly with his right hand, and said that in the old days there had never been such chaos. The youth had become completely soft. The man jumped out of the snow and wielding everything he had on hand, began to confront the zombies. Realized that I would probably have to clean up the mess. Himself the guy. I couldn't leave those zombies like this, because who knows what they could do to their new pap. The number of zombies began to decline steadily. The man was handling the situation with great skill. Looked like a master with a bat and a lever. There was zombie blood everywhere. Their bodies with broken bones and made scatter on the floor. The man said that this scum was not welcome here, so they should not have expected a warm welcome. The guy smiled and said, "This site has really become so popular." New groups of zombies continued to arrive. Just before opening, many customers appeared. The man was covered in zombie blood. At his feet already lay a large pile of shattered bodies. Said that the brave among the survivors remaining could approach. A whole year had passed since then. The capital now looked nice and orderly. The hunter's pub that was open and always ready to welcome visitors. A customer at the pub said she didn't believe it. It was even legal for tomorrow to be Monday. Was ranked Sheriff Bichai Minjong. Said he had been making hours extras every day of this month, including weekends. I had even worked today and had come here right after your turn. Myung-jung complained about where his days off were. Their bosses were like slave traders. A man sitting nearby said Myung. Myung could just let him take it all and leave. The girl drank the contents of his cup and said he really wanted to do precisely that. However, if he found another job, would not even come close to earning a comparable salary. Rank Hunter B. Kim Hwan told the sheriff to join the hunters and join his guild. Was willing to speak well of her. Chainman said he would never accept that. Even if they paid more, the work was dirtier. I had heard that this time many hunters had been trapped at the gates for several months. Working as sheriff, at least he could go home after his shift. When I finished a mission I had free time. The waiter continued serving Minjong drinks. Told his companion that he and the other hunters should limit themselves to doing their job well. If they had closed the doors in time, the sheriffs would not have had to intervene at all. Kim Hwan pointed out that it was not that simple, as there were too many doors for that number of hunters. Min Jong pointed out that if the boy will try harder, could save his former classmate. Kim Hwan said that Min Jong was a real beast that strangled thrushes with her own hands. She really needed to be saved. Should not behave like a weak girl. Min Jong took offense to his former classmate. Why he called her that? Maybe he wanted this beast to shake all the about him like dust on a carpet. Lee was the owner of it. Put a drink in front of the visitor, and said the double frost was ready. Lee told the two to have his drinks right there, but if they wanted to have a fight of lovers who would get out of here and go home. I couldn't bear to see them. Should not bother a lonely man. Jong shouted out loud that this was not true at all. The owner reacted calmly to his outburst and said, with her things are never what they seem, Jun. Lee Jun added that seeing those two, they'd a lonely person want to cry. Im Hwan told the girl not to listen to him. The owner was just having fun. If she reacted to his comment, he would not stop. The hunter said that the sheriff fell for the owner's jokes every day. Life does not teach you anything. Min Jong was angry and Jun Lee Jun smiled mischievously. The owner of the iPhone said that if the ice melted, would ruin the taste of the drink. The girl held back and calmed down immediately. Min Jong drank the contents of his glass in one gulp and said that everything was fine now. Kim Hwan said she was crazy. How I could drink so much of it. Young told the boy to mind his own business. Did not want to hear that of someone who drank undiluted whiskey with the graduation of Kim Hwan barrel. Calmly said that at least he did not drink whiskey like a barbarian. The girl thought that if you tasted it drop by drop, the alcohol was not noticeable at all. Kim Hwan commented that this woman, ignorant, did not understand anything at all. The sheriff asked the waiter to prepare another frost. Wanted a double one stirred but not mixed. Jun replied that he would take care of it right away. A loud noise was heard from outside. Customers suddenly looked around. Someone slammed the door from the outside with such force that the door came out of his hinges and landed in the middle of the room. The owner and the customers were very surprised. It was undoubtedly a failure. A stranger came into the and asked for a drink. Said he wanted the strongest liquor they had. Nothing less than a whole bottle. The boy took a few steps forward and climbed on the door that was already on the floor. The visitor told the owner that on that day had had breakfast with his boss, and the sheriff and the hunter had even gone to the sauna. Realized that it was not a simple drunk who had snuck into the bright blue eyes and bulging veins. Clear signs of mana poisoning. The visitor ordered another drink. It was undoubtedly an individual infected by mana. Kim Hwan loosened his tie and said it wouldn't be easy. But with 2B rank awakened ones there should be no problem. There was a risk that he would turn into a demon. So they had to lure him out and take care of him there. Min Jong agreed. The sheriff told the teacher to stay where he was. The awakened would have to take care of this. Jun Lee Jun looked down and saw him standing up next to the front door. Kim Hwan told the big guy who would buy him the drink he was looking for, but that they would have to go outside to do so. Would speak there. The visitor said he did not want to go anywhere. I would drink Min Jong right there. His hands, told the man, burly in a more abrupt tone that came out immediately. The charming lady offered him a full body massage. I would take all the stress out of him in a jiffy. It would be to miss such an opportunity. The customer was angry, a chair and smashed it against a nearby table. The situation worsened. The villain told the terrifying woman who did not get in her way. Kim Hwan got angry and punched the visitor in the jaw. The hunter declared that he should not be told the truth, people in the face, while continuing to beat the infected man. The hunter added that it was a personal insult. Even if it were the absolute truth, the villain was not hurt at all. turned around and the hunter by the head with his huge hand. Kim Hwan tried to defend himself and demanded that the villain release him. However, it was in vain. The villain lifted the hunter off the ground and said that this guy was bothering him. Min Jung decided to take action. Asked him if the brute, I had not heard what she had said, had to release the man immediately. The girl threw a unique blow. The villain staggered and released the Min Jung hunter. Using their firepower, continued to press the bully. The villain fell backwards. Min Jung asked the hunter how he was doing. Kim Hwan thought he was fine, that he had only let his guard down but would miss it. The sheriff stated that the man was far from being an infected person. The hunter agreed. Judging by his strength and speed, was at least rank B. If they did not act cautiously, things could end badly. Kim Hwan said that if he had had his sword with him, I would have finished off that scoundrel in a jiffy. Min Jung thought that no longer mattered. But that was an insult disguised as a real thing. Sheriff added that he would throw it in Kim's face. One later, old friends decided to attack in unison. Min Jung also continued to use his fire skills. The villain's eyes began to shine even brighter. Told them not to get in their way. At the same time, his body began to transform a powerful blow. And the attackers flew off to one side. The man infected became a poison, aggressive, that began to trash the Min Jung pub. Noted that this villain had already completely transformed into a demon. Would even be able to defeat them unarmed. Kim Hwan thought he didn't know that. The hunter added that they had to try anyway. The owner was still there, and was no more than an ordinary civilian. Jun Li Jun headed for the huge hole. The sheriff shouted that it could be dangerous there. Kim Hwan told the master not to stand in front of that villain. Had to flee immediately. Yet Yan Li Yun was calm and self-confident. The boy ordered a drink again. The sheriff said that the owner had gone crazy. Not even experienced hunters always manage a toy like this. Kim Hwan repeated that the owner had to flee immediately. The owner clenched his fists and said menacingly to the visitor, "If you have come to the pub, you should sit quietly and have your drink." This scoundrel had shattered the hole. The villain pounced on the owner and told him that, if he did not want to give him a drink, would continue to cause havoc and destroying everything that was there. Min Jun screamed in panic, telling the owner to turn away. Jun Li Jun didn't even think of dodging it. Dealt a powerful blow to the bully. The boy even staggered. Jun Li Jun delivered a series of blows to his opponent's chest. The boy's arm flailed and stopped responding to him. The teacher told the boy to grit his teeth if he did not want to wear dentures for the rest of his life. The beating of the bully continued. In response, the boy laughed. What kind of dentures this man is talking about? Jun Li Jun kept hitting him. The angel's teeth came out, flying in all directions. The teacher kicked him in the leg, right at the pressure point. The Argentine lost his balance, could no longer support the weight on his injured leg. Jun Li Jun kept hitting the bully. Jun Li Jun was outraged and asked him why this scoundrel had come to his bar. The owner hit the chest's head against the bar several times. The boy stopped moving. Jun Li Jun, he moves his head against the bar for a while longer. The protagonist said that the troublemaker scum had been eliminated. Had to let off steam a little. The owner stated that anyone who dared to destroy his bar would be destroyed. The sheriff and the hunter were left, stunned by Yan Li Yun's behavior. Decided that it was best never to upset the owner. Min Jung, if the master was sure he was only a retired B-ranking hunter, did not fit into that category at all. The hunter pointed out that this was exactly what appeared in the hunter's registry of the young country. Li Jun told the sheriff that his had been destroyed during a demon attack. He had only defended himself because his life was in danger. This is considered self-defense and is covered by the insurance. Jimyo Jun Lai died. Jun kicked him and told him to shut up. Since I was talking to people, Min Jong looked at the boy off and asked if that punk could really have threatened the teacher's life. Jun Li Jun commented that this princess did not calm down in any way. Today's hooligans have no idea on how to behave correctly. Jun Li Jun pointed out that from a legal point of view, he was blameless. The sheriff agreed and added that everyone should approve it. There was no doubt about it. The devil had clearly attacked first. Herself as sheriff had witnessed the development of the situation. Jun Li Jun was recorded, because if they had not approved it, would have had to go and destroy the police station. The hunter thought the owner of the pub was a man. Strange, the master was everything but ordinary. That had become clear since their first meeting a year ago. The man had extended his hand and had told the boy to wake up. Why the hell had decided to just in front of his pub on opening day? Jun Li was in front of a man with his naked torso lying on the sidewalk. The guy stood up and apologized and said he must have lost consciousness for a moment, would leave immediately and apologize if it had interfered with the success of the business. Jun Li Jun stopped the boy and told him to wait a moment. The owner added that in any case, there were no customers and that he was dying of boredom. Why he didn't have a drink before he left? Only Jun added that alcohol is excellent for disinfecting wounds. The young man looked up and saw the sign. The young man realized that he had no money. Thanked for the offer, but I didn't even have enough for a pack of ramen. The owner said he felt uncomfortable today. As this boy was his first customer, he invited him into the house. A 25-year-old bottle of whiskey appeared on the table in front of the young people. The customer smelled it and said that the drink, it smelled like a dentist's office. Why do people drink this? The owner commented that this was precisely his charm. This drink is so popular that it is not easy to find. Does anyone really like to drink this crap? Jun Li Jun. I guess the chocolate flavored is a bit of a. But that once you like it, you can't imagine your life without it. The owner was convinced that as soon as the visitor arrived home, I would like to try that drink again. Young Li Jun told the young man that his father, he didn't like it at first either, but in the end I didn't want to drink anything else. The young man was surprised. The owner really knew his father. Jun Li Jun confirmed this and added, his name was Kim Hong, right? The teacher pointed out that the man had been in debt to him when he had barely started as a hunter. I was not sure at first, but this young man's gestures and facial expressions were exactly the same as those of his old. Kim Hwan saw a notification that he had been sent a photo. The teacher said that Hong always bragged about his son. From what I had seen, more than enough photos from his childhood. Thanks to Hong was able to adapt the hunter life with considerable speed. Kim Hwan said that now everything made sense to him. In reality, he himself had recently become a hunter. But it was the first time I knew someone who knew his father. Jun Li Jun noted that Kim Hong was of the previous generation and rarely visited the country. Therefore, after observing him, Kim Hwan decided to retire. Asked if it was okay that his partner would drink during working hours dressed like that. Jun Li Jun thought he was doing whatever he wanted to do. He was the boss there. No one could tell him what to do. The pub owner pointed to the sign at the door and said he did not have intention to attend to anyone else that day. So I had already put up the closed sign. He didn't feel like working that day anyway. The pub would not really open until tomorrow. Kim Hwan said that the image he had of a waiter was a little more disciplined. This place is a real disaster. Jun Li Jun commented that this was the main attraction of being the boss. Kim Hwan agreed. Being in charge had its advantages. Jun Li Jun. I understand why this guy was lying in that state in front of his pub. Even lower-ranking hunters are not beaten like this. Kim Hwan remained silent and lowered his head. The owner pointed out that the type, I didn't have to answer if I didn't want to. I had only asked about it on. The hunter thought there was nothing special about it. Owed money to lender. He couldn't pay the interest, so he was beaten up. Lee was surprised. Kim Jun had earned a lot of money throughout his life. How this could have happened, Kim Hwan? I thought his mother had endorsed a friend and had lost everything. Then, when he was in high school, she left a note and disappeared. Also has a younger brother who was in elementary school. Jun Lee Jun asked how much money the boy had. If he couldn't even pay interest. Even beginners should have a decent income. Kim Hwan recognized that its principal debt was 10 million coins. Jun Lee Jun commented that this amount could easily be covered, overcoming a few low-level doors. Kim Hwan added that debt increases by 5% each month. Now that he has become a hunter, is paying for it little by little. But before that I couldn't pay for anything at all. The debt grew to 800 million euros. Kim Hwan had a bet a few years ago. Needed money urgently for his brother's operation. But no one lent a child. So he had to resort to the hunter lenders. The young man explained that it is a lending business. The legal activities directed by the hunters themselves. The laws cannot completely control the awakened. So even if this at astronomical interest rates, no one can do anything about it. Jun Lee Jun were the sheriffs or the guild were looking at. Do not provide protection. Kim Hwan explained that these lenders were as powerful as the major guilds. So everyone was simply turning a blind eye. The authorities did not have enough personnel to declare war on them. Since all his forces are, the focus was on making dungeon raids. Jun Lee Jun was outraged to learn that the hunters' illegal businesses were conducted. Had once done everything possible for making the world a livable place. But in the end things were over. The owner of the pub added that he was only thinking out loud. Kim Hwan left that and headed home. Felt relaxed for the first time in a long time. The hunter decided that he had drunk too much because he had been invited to drink. Decided to go back there as soon as he got some money. Two people crossed paths with the hunter. One of them was angry. Turned out that this guy had money for drink, but he could not pay his debt. No doubt it had hidden cash. His colleague said that his colleague was right. Had been a good idea. Come back and check it out. The whole bully said he was very nervous because his boss had scolded him. I needed to beat this guy up to let off steam. His colleague agreed. The bully suggested breaking this guy's leg. The bully refused because then I could not earn money to return what he owed them. They had to do something else. Suddenly, another person appeared in front of him, the wild bully. Who is this guy? The bully realized that it was his first time watching at face what this guy is making here. Jun Lee Jun, and it was him. The thugs by the head and squeezed them tightly. The two crossed in pain. Jun Lee Jun let loose his grip and the thugs fell to the ground, bleeding profusely. The protagonist realized that to survive like these two, he was nothing more than a man with many questions. The loan shark's office was called Borrowing with Love. The boss was furious. Why it took so long for those assistants to come back? Would get into trouble if they were taking a break somewhere. The secretary told the boss who would try to locate them by phone immediately. The boss was Pike Woman, CEO of With Love. Said that these two had become completely vague. When they will return, I would have to give them a good reprimand. An unknown voice stated that there was no need for that, because he himself had brought them here. The boss was surprised. The front door slammed open with a roar. Nothing similar had ever happened there. The teacher was frightened. It could be an attack by a rival company. Jun Lee Jun appeared at the door. Before him the thugs were already beaten and bloody. The guy said he was just a neighbor, kindly that the princess had brought, as they were looking for these two here. There was no need to thank him. Bike woman was outraged. What is happening here? Who is this guy, by the way? Li Jun looked around and saw that in addition to the boss, there were several other armed thugs in the office. Li Jun said he was a bar owner, and that he had passed by to clean up his neighborhood. That woman said she was some kind of idiot. Would have to pay to behave like a madman. Could be considered today as the anniversary of his death by the chief, warned his henchmen that they would bury that corpse today. Woman ordered his bodyguards to tear the guy to pieces. Armed thugs attacked the owner of the pub. Li Jun said they could try to reduce them if they thought they could succeed. After that day, Lone Shark Hunter disappeared completely from the city. Suddenly freed from the crushing debt burden, Kim Hwan began to prepare for the dungeon raids with more than ever. The guild highlights its talent, which allowed him to become the youngest group leader. In addition, all other forms of illegal hunters' businesses that had blossomed in the shadows also disappeared without a trace. Kim Hwan thought I didn't understand it then, but now I knew it for sure. Without a doubt, the reason for all this was the arrival from master to city. His arrival not only benefited Kim Hwan, but order also reigned in the capital. I thought why the hunter and the sheriff looked at him like that. The bar had already closed for that day, so they could go home. After a while, order was restored in the bar. Li Jun admitted that cleaning had not been easy. It's a good thing I had insurance. Not a single quiet day goes by in this neighborhood. Li Jun was hungry and decided to prepare a ramen before going to bed. The owner left the pub, reflected aloud on what he felt like. Eat at that time. Li Jun saw a child lying on the floor at the entrance to the. Who is this? How did you end up here? The girl said that her father could now open his eyes. Her father called her his little princess. His father was holding a gift. The girl said it was for her birthday. The little princess said that her father had had a hard time taking care of her. I would always be grateful to him. Was very happy to have been born as his daughter. The girl asked why her father was crying. Something hurt. The man thought it didn't hurt at all. He was also very happy to be her father. The girl smiled and said it was a wonderful answer. A wristwatch appeared on the man's wrist. Said it was a magical gift. That the watch was very nice and that I would take very good care of it. Li Jun opened his eyes and thought it was all just a dream. A little girl appeared before the eyes of the protagonist. Li Jun jumped out of bed. Said she had scared him to death. Li Jun asked him who he was and remembered, which was the same girl I had found at the door of it the day before. The protagonist told the girl that I did not have to thank him. I simply could not leave a child unconscious lying in the middle of the street. The girl raised 2 fingers and extended her hand forward. Jun told him that for now he could rest until he recovered. Forces could then leave. The girl silently stuck her fingers in the eyes of her. The boy screamed loudly from the surprise and the pain. 10 minutes earlier, everyone in the room was asleep. Li Yun on the floor, the girl and her bed. The girl moved and started to wake up. Li Jun was still sleeping deeply. Li Ruri joined the bed and stretched out. The girl said good morning. Li Ruri looked around and was shocked. Where I was now? Li Ruri said the bed was so soft and fluffy. Was simply incredible. The girl looked at the ground and saw a man lying beside her. Who it was scared. Li Ruri recalled how his mentor had told him that the outside world was full of perverts. That's why I should never go anywhere with strangers. Could lock her in her room forever and start doing all kinds of horrible things to him. Luri asked what I should do in that case. If it had already been caught, I will go. I thought the girl had to stick his fingers in the scoundrel's eyes and then give him a good kick between the legs. Now Luri was wondering, could this really be the paradise that his mentor Li Jun had told him about? Moved Li Ruri realized that Pepper was up. The girl was lost. Didn't know what to do. Ruri recalled the instructions of enro and stuck his fingers in Grandpa's eyes. Jin did not expect his day to begin with so much pain, and asked him what he was doing. The girl thought she was punishing Pepper, who had stolen from an attractive and beautiful girl. Jin said it was not a failure. The day before, she had been unconscious in front of her bar, so he brought it here so that he could rest and regain his senses. The girl pointed out that she had been taught to move someone's body without their consent. We will have a glass. Jun thought it all depended on the situation. Jun asked him why the girl had pricked eyes with fingers. After all, it hurts. If you were a normal person, the girl would undoubtedly have gone blind, he explained. Enro said that's exactly what he had to do. Did everything right. Yun got tears in his eyes. Who the hell is Enro? She must have been crazy. Our grandfather, covering his eyes, dies. Why the hell had he picked up this girl? Should not have made his bed. Should have left it in the street, Ruri thought. A warm room. A roof over its head to protect itself from the rain. Baby being kidnapped isn't that bad. After all, Yulin said again that it was not a failure. The teacher said that the door was open and that the girl could go wherever she wanted to go. Ruri did not move. Jun asked him why he was not leaving. No one was holding her there. I could do whatever the girl wanted. Lowered his head and said he didn't know what he was supposed to do. Go anywhere. Do what I would like. What the guy meant. The girl's stomach roared loudly. Ruri said he wanted to eat. The boy rolled the girl's hair and said that, in that case, they would eat first and talk later. The protagonist tried to cook as fast as possible, and told the little troublemaker to wait a moment. I was going to prepare something very tasty with the most tasty ingredients. Health. Ruri watched in silence as everything unfolded. His stomach continued to roar loudly, begging for food. After a while, there was a strawberry roll on the table. The girl tasted the candy and said it was delicious. Soft and sweet. Now you know what a strawberry roll tastes like. Jun and Minjong were watching the girl Ruri. He kept saying from time to time that he was amazing, and that the sheriff was a princess. Realized that this girl had an excellent appetite. Jun wondered how he could eat so much. After all, they had just had a meal. Abundant like this within an hour. Minjong said there was nothing strange about it. Everyone knows that there is a separate stomach. For dessert, the priest Orko Kim Dog entered the said he always liked to see a child eat well. It's a good thing I bought a roll along the way. Young Legion beat Min Jong if he had found out what he had asked him to do. The woman acknowledged that neither the police nor the sheriff had received no report of the disappearance of an elf girl. The orc said he had also asked the locals, but that no one had ever seen that girl. Jun was. Maybe I should take her to an orphanage. Min Jong said that would be a mistake. Pub owner was surprised. Kim Dobby noted that the orphanages are difficult to maintain, and which are intended primarily for human children. That is why semi-humans are often victims of harassment there. Jung added that the girl did not look like a pureblood elf. It was quite possible that she was a mestizo, so neither elves nor humans would welcome it. The teacher asked what he should do with the child in that case. What a suggestion. The priest said they would look for other options. For now, the teacher was to take care of her. Jun was surprised. Why precisely he, the sheriff? The teacher is really going to abandon the child in an orphanage and pretend he doesn't know her? Is he really that kind of person? Kim Dobby added that he was really too cruel. Jun and Jun said it was easy for them to talk, as the problem did not concern them. Caring for children is not so simple. Ruri told his uncle that he was very rich and suggested that they finish the role together. Jun took a fork and said he agreed would take the opportunity to check whether the role Kim Da was really that good. The thinking out loud is over if the owner, I would let the girl stay with the Min Jong. I thought I was 100% sure I would. Min Jong asked the priest why he was drinking Maggioli in a bar. Kim Da took the bottle and said that the Maggioli was his favorite drink. Could not drink strong alcohol like her older sister. Min Jung was furious again. After all, Ed repeatedly told her not to call her Nuna. Kim Da noted that he was only 26 years old. The sheriff was a year older, which meant that she was his Nuna. Min Young said the orc was making fun of her. The girl stated that she didn't like any of it. How could a priest with a face like that be younger than her? I would never believe it. It was also not appropriate for a priest to drink Macaulay. It was all too strange. Kim Da said in tone conciliatory that the sheriff should simply accept it. Min Jong said all this was bothering him. Lee Ruri took a bowl of food out of it and left it on the ground. The kitten who was sitting nearby meowed. The kitten started eating. The girl realized that she was very hungry. Read Ruri if his mother had come looking for him. Perhaps he had decided to live on his own as of today. Jun watched from the side, while the girl talked sweetly to the kitten. The teacher had the feeling that he read Ruri. I was actually talking to the cat. This kitten had always been shy and approached no one but him. I could have accepted the girl's food so easily. There. At the next crossing, the door appeared. The sheriff told the hunter that these doors had been assigned to your guild. Kim Wan thought he already knew that. The hunter pointed out that the association had given them many doors during the assignment. Because of this, there was not even close enough people to clear them. The sheriff stated that she was of the exact opposite opinion. Now they would be the ones to work overtime. Kim Wan with the hours. Extras were the least of his concerns. Had called him on his day off. The squadron commander reported that the doors had not yet entered into mode Berserk. The hunter squadron, fully prepared for combat, arrived at the door at the first order. The hunter squadron, Min Jong and Kim Hwan were waiting for the transformation of the door. It wouldn't be long now. After a while the squadron commander reads an 8. Yun announced that the door had entered Berserk mode. The next instant, armed criminals began to leave the door. The hunters immediately attacked these savages, preventing them from spreading throughout the city. The sheriff Min Yang, in the fulfillment of their duties to maintain order, and making use of their unique abilities, the magic of fire, also attacked the Argentine Min Yang. Noted that these findings, they were very and smelly bugs. Captain Lee Yunnan ordered all units to open fire to kill. Armed hunters opened fire with automatic weapons, declaring that these green castles should be destroyed. Kim Hwan, sword in hand, fought bravely against the Argentines by delivering critical blows to them. The hunter said it had to stay in maximum alert at all times, since there were so many boys. Min Jung, using magic of fire, ignited fire at nearby angles as if it were a flamethrower. Kim Hwan said the sheriff was acting in a manner very provocative, as if I were the only one who was destroying these monsters. Min Jung thought that from the outside, his behavior seemed very cool. The hunter and the sheriff decided to make a bet. Who would kill less? Doblins would have to buy drinks today. Kim Hwan said that thanks to the sheriff, today I would drink on behalf of someone else. In the end, Min Jong killed an Asian, but in the end, Min Jong drank free alcohol. The girl said sadly that she had lost. The hunter added that he would drink with pleasure in his health. Into your account. Min Young woke him up angry. Li Jun said that the nurses in the dungeons and incidents at the doors were commonplace. Min Young asked the waiter to serve him another round. Li Jun greeted the new visitor. Min Jong saw this visitor, and unable to control itself, spit a squirt of drink out of his mouth. directly to his companion Kim. Won cursed in reply and asked her what she was doing there. Min Jong was surprised. What the president is doing here? The president of the association had effectively entered. The old man said he was very happy to see them. I haven't seen Min Young and Kim Won in a long time. Was pleased that his former classmates continued to get along so well. Kim Hwan still did not look happy. Greeted the president. Was the boss of the police and president of the Hunters Association. A hunter of rank, that. Beak Xiaogu. The president apologized for the late visit. But I needed to talk to the owner of the premises. Bi Xiaogu asked the two of them to come out for a few minutes. Min Jong was surprised. It is possible that the owner knew the president. Kim Won got up from his seat and said that anyway. We're about to leave. Min Jong objected, since they had just placed the order and were still left with plenty of food. Kim Hwan said their boss was asking them to leave. Beak Xiaogu apologized for interrupting them. That's why he would pay the bill. Min Jong was happy and said that today he would save money on beverages. Kim Won said the deal was still ongoing. She would pay for the second round. Jun Lijun told Li Ruri to go up to his room. The girl stared at the stern-looking old man. Li Ruri squinted and smiled at the president on. Old man could not help it and returned the child's smile. The girl ran into the room and said that the baby slug was running as fast as I could. Bi Xiaogu commented that she had a lot of energy. The vice president placed a glass in front of the president, and also only 2 toes of hearts only. Bi Xiaogu confirmed it. The old man was glad that the master still remembered him. Bi Xiaogu told the boy that they had not seen each other for a long time. Hunters constitute only 1% of the Earth's total population. Our chosen few with superpowers. His strength was sufficient to make the face-offs appearing all over the world. Humanity established an association, creating a system perfectly suitable for survival. Those who hunted savages were called hunters. The organization they created was called the Guild. However, too many portals and dungeons appeared, and the hunters could no longer stand up to them, for its strength was not unlimited. The heroes began to escape from the dungeons that had not been cleared in time, accompanied by various anomalies. The Hunters Association called this phenomenon dungeon clashes or door riots. Only a part of the hunters decided to dedicate himself to eliminating these misfortunes, which caused his chest to split in 2 main categories, which are focused on cleaning the doors and dungeons were common hunters as well. Were those who chose to work for the state, the sheriffs responsible for the country's internal security, enacted the hunter law to protect peaceful citizens, trying to restore order in the midst of chaos, and let all the sheriffs was a rank hunter that was the guardian Pichaogu. There was also the one whom this living legend called brother was the owner of the Yun Li Yun. The protagonist spoke how he knew Xiaogu that he was the old man. I guess at the end of the day, was the president of the Hunters Association, and had known for a long time that his brother Xiaogu had returned. Admitted that the drink the boy was serving was, as always, of excellent quality. The president noted that Yun Li Yun, he didn't even try to hide. After all, openly hunted down criminal hunters. That's why he had even been nicknamed Mad Dog. Young Li also said he couldn't stand that nickname. With so many cool and eye-catching words out there, why they had to call him Mad Dog? The president said he had nothing to do with it. Zhang Lichun agreed, adding that it simply annoyed him. Bi Xiaogu said that in any case the brother had helped them a lot to maintain order in the capital. The owner, I thought the old man could keep to himself, is thanks to himself. He had simply restored order in the vicinity of your establishment. Bi Xiaogu, how many years had passed? The last time they had seen each other, it had been when Yun Li Yun left in search of So. The owner I thought they had passed exactly 20 years since their last meeting. The protagonist added that time flies and dies remain the same. The old man's sense of taste and smell. Xiaogu admitted that he was still unable to distinguish the odors, nor the flavors by the way. Junlijun commented that in that case, it made no sense to invite the president to a good liquor. The old man objected, could still perfectly perceive the alcohol graduation and the effects of drunkenness. Could distinguish good but from cheap Yun Li. Yun was surprised. After all, Xiaogu used to jump out of bed just by mentioning the wine. Why he had made that deal? The old man thought he had no regrets. By sacrificing his sense of smell and taste, had sharpened his other senses. What had made him much stronger? The president asked the owner if I had found Soo. The owner replied that he had not yet found that girl, unbearable, and that he had no idea where he might have escaped. Did not have a single clue. The president asked how long the brother had been there. Continue with the search. 20 years had already passed since his disappearance. Junlijun told the old man to shut up. He didn't even dare to think of anything bad. The protagonist added that he would only stop looking for Soo the day of his death. The old man laughed. I had begun to think that this guy had retired. Yet his aura had not changed one iota. Xiaogu commented that his brother had not aged an iota. I had heard those rumors, but the guy really had exactly the same appearance that 20 years ago. Junlijun told Xiaogu to stop talking so much and out to the point on the occasion of his visit. What the old man wanted from him, Xiaogu. A brother. Minor cannot simply come to visit his brother. Mayor. Junlijun was surprised. Since when had the old man become so attractive? If that were true, it would have appeared here a year ago. Xiaogu admitted that this was only half true. Li Ruri pounced on the protagonist's arms and told his uncle that he was very hungry. The girl climbed on his shoulder, clung to her hair and said she wanted some food. Really happened. Junlijun said he understood. Li Ruri had to get off him immediately. The girl kept asking for food. They had to hurry. And soon it was, cooking rice with vegetables and seafood in the kitchen. Li Ruri admitted that the dish smelled delicious. The girl urged her uncle to hurry up. Jun commented that if she didn't stay still she wouldn't give him anything. The teacher tried not to get distracted and continued cooking. Li Ruri watched what was happening with admiration. Beat Xiaogu, yes brother. I had heard about the artificial hunter project. Junlijun. Is this as in the old days when men, demon were trying to mass produce to individuals? The old man confirmed this and added that there was a small difference. Previously, its objective was to create artificially to those awakened from scratch. But now they intend to transform hunters, low-ranking into high-ranking ones by means of mutation. Palpu brother. You know what manda poisoning is, right? Jun Li Chun commented that a person, this is how he had passed by as the other day. The president added that it was a classic side effect of body modification by corn meat or blood. If symptoms worsen, the test subject loses his worm mind and becomes a human demon. The chances of success are slim. But with favorable genetic compatibility, the subject becomes a powerful awakened one. Its rank increases 1 level. If occurs, it can raise 2 levels at once. Given the nature of these experiments, it is clear that there are demon men behind them. The president added that they are still investigating, but that there is still no concrete confirmation. Even if they lack physical evidence, there is a lot of circumstantial evidence. Kalbu told his brother to listen to him until the end. The main objective of the Artificial Hunter Project is to improve skills through body modification. But recently, new information has come to light. Refers to the boy of the angel, the homunculus. These scoundrels are kidnapping refugee children from other worlds, artificially altering their genes and crossing them with hybrids and then growing homunculi from the resulting embryos. Jun was outraged. How they can interfere in so crude with the laws of nature. Doubts that this will give any satisfactory results. Even conception among humans, elves and orcs is an enormosity. Waste and embargo are trying to survive creatures that are completely incompatible with each other. Yahello agreed that this could not be successful. Most of the children created in this way die in less than a month. Only 1 in 100 survives to be 1 year old. No doubt only crazy people are capable of such a thing. Jun said he deeply regretted it. But why was the president telling him all this? After all, he was no longer a hunter. And I didn't have to know. Baigu asked the girl his brother had welcomed. His name was Lai Ruri, had been mobilized all intelligence contacts to compile a file on it. The old man added that no matter how much he looked for, I had found absolutely nothing about her. Yan asked if this could really become a problem. The president confirmed it have passed. It has been years since the passage to another world was open. The administrative system has long since been streamlined. Live in an era in which semi-humans cannot hide from the government. However, it has not been found, no mention of this girl anywhere. Yahello pointed out that in that case there were only 2 possibilities. Either the girl is an unfortunate from another world, or is a test subject of the child in a mirror project. The president added that it was merely from an assumption. She was probably nothing more than a wretch, otherworldly occurred often. They were simply unlucky. They ran into a portal or a dungeon by accident and ended up on this side. Kagu suggested that even if something extraordinary happened, would not be a problem for someone like the brother. After finishing the hole in his glass, the president said he had decided to notify Jun just in case. The owner thanked him for the information. The president admitted that the drink was excellent and said goodbye to his brother. Promised to visit him from time to time. Jun thought this Yahello was really cunning. Left in silence and didn't even pay the bill. The chef said the fried rice with kimchi was ready, and that the girl could already start eating. Lai Ruri tested it and said it was incredibly delicious. Kimchi for real, it could be so tasty when fried. The girl added that she was so sick that I could not stop eating. Jun commented that it could not be otherwise, since he had cooked it himself. Recalling his conversation with the president, Jun thought it was what the truth was. This girl didn't fit. No place to rest in peace. Except this bar. The fire department arrived immediately after the first emergency call. The house was engulfed in flames. Several floors were already burning. Fear was evident in the woman's eyes, and shouted the name of his daughter and I. The woman explained to firefighters that her daughter was still inside, gave them the room number, and asked them to save the child. One of the firefighters was terrified. The girl could really still be in there. Told the commander that it had to be removed immediately. The boss thought he was absolutely impossible to enter there at that time. The firefighter said he could not stand idly by, doing nothing. Man added that they could not stand idly by, doing nothing. Firefighters had not been built to save people. The commander told King Jinsu to recompose himself. Maybe the guy had forgotten how he had died. Yun Si Woo, it had been only a month since the civilians. Not even firefighters could escape such a hellish scene. The commander added that a distinction had to be made between courage and recklessness. Did not want to allow any more senseless losses. King Jinsu stood before the flames trying to do nothing. It really seemed crazy. Suddenly Sheriff Min Jong appeared. The girl told everyone to stand back. She would save that child. I'm sure I understood correctly that there was still a little girl inside the house. The commander was surprised what I was talking about. After all, it was very dangerous. Min Young showed off her Slayer license and said he was in a hurry. Could skip the formalities. The firefighter confirmed that the girl was still in the 5th floor room. Min Young thanked him for the information. The fireman called the commander. We should not stop her. The captain thought everything would be fine, as she was a B-ranking sheriff. This woman is one of those superhuman to which ordinary citizens, they cannot even judge. Suddenly there was a powerful explosion in the building debris. The woman was shot in all directions. She screamed and ran into the fire, but the firefighter held her back. Shortly thereafter, the sheriff dies from the flames with a girl in her arms. Min Jung reported that the girl was fine. The mother ran to her daughter. Min Jung said there was no reason to worry. The girl had simply lost consciousness briefly. After inhaling smoke, the woman thanked him to the sheriff for saving her daughter. Min Jung saw a wild-looking man in the crowd. I wish I wasn't there. Min Jung thought he was in a big mess now. The waiter was preparing a drink. Brandy orange liqueur and lemon juice. Everything had to be shaken well. The result was a bittersweet sidecar cocktail. Strong and tempting. Rank Sheriff S. Kim Min-soo said it was simply excellent. The man added that these cocktails always had the perfect balance. Jun Re-jun thought it couldn't be any other way. As Min Jung prepared them himself, wondered why the boy was being so immodest. Jun Li-jun was grumbling around again. My ears itch. Kim Min-an. Min Jung continues to hold a grudge. His turn had long since ended. It was about time to calm down. Min Jung admitted that acting on his own during the surveillance had been a big mistake, but he could not stand idly by, watching a child die before his own eyes. Kim Min-soo said he had done everything right. Min Jung was angry with Captain. Min Jung added that the captain always behaves as if he were a big fish, despite the fact that it does not have no idea how to work on the land. However, today I had given him a sermon for another half hour. Min Jung, yes. The rank of a hunter really decides everything. How someone without common sense can be in charge. The girl commented that Kim Min-soo should be in the captain's place. Min Young added that his track record and skills are the best among all sheriffs. Kim Min-soo pointed out that he was only of rank C. Although the work of a sheriff is considered to be an office job, are still hunters. And hunters do not listen to someone weaker than them. Min Young said that was not true. After all, she always listened to Kim Min-soo. Reiterated that he believed the girl had done the right thing. If it weren't for her, they wouldn't have been able to save that girl. It was unlikely that a salamander-skinned hunter would have crossed over there by chance. Kim Min-soo commented that his own daughter could have been at the site of that girl. Just thinking about it disturbed him. Sin embargo, Saber Qua, Min Jung could go to the gym, reassured him. The sheriff told the girl not to worry. Would not face any measure. Disciplinary work. Even the normal police could be in charge of a simple surveillance. The man looked at his watch and said it was time to go. Min Jung was surprised why men left his side. After all, he had only had one drink. Kim Min said he had to check something before he went home. The next day was his daughter's birthday, and wanted to finish the paperwork in advance. Min Jung thought of his own daughter. I wish you good luck. Kim Min-soo commented that the hunter did not seem to be drinking much, but that Min Jung should also go home early. The girl felt and asked him to tell Hyun Jun that I missed her. Kim Min-soo said he would pass it on without fail to his daughter. And inside that, Jun Li-jun commented that he was an excellent mentor. Kim Min Jung nodded and added that he was the sheriff he respected the most. Although his hunter rank had stagnated in C, was one of the few who deserved to be called a sheriff. Jun Li-jun said you cannot judge a person for its rank. Min Jung, he nodded and asked the waiter to also serve him a sidecar. Better double. Sheriff Kim Min-soo was covered in blood and sitting on the floor. El Criminal declared that the hunters there were the real villains. The delinquent with a bat in his hand said that they had only been lucky enough to be born under a good star and become hunters without lifting a finger. Now live comfortably thanks to their high salaries. The villain had it that he also wanted to live life in its own way, just like hunters. There was no need to get in his way then. Shamelessly shouted at him, the hunter who would not dare to remain silent. I had to say something. Whatever, the villain was really angry more. This man intended to remain silent to the end. The criminal raised the bat and added that pretending to would be of no use to him. I would see how long this hunter lasted. The villain started hitting King Men up with the bat. After a while, others sheriffs arrived at the crime scene. Min Jong carefully examined the crime scene. His colleagues were like collecting evidence and taking pictures. Min Jong angrily squeezed a sheet of paper in his hand with the photo of the wanted criminal. With tears in the eyes, his daughter begged for her father to wake up Kim Min-soo, already made in a bed, hospital mass. The girl said that today was her birthday. Dad shouldn't be here. After all, Ed promised him that they would go to the park and would eat all kinds of delicacy. His daughter was crying by her father's bedside. Kim Min-soo never regained consciousness. Myeon Jong appeared at the door of the living room, accompanied by the responsible physician. The sheriff asked how he was doing. The doctor concluded that fortunately, had found him shortly after he was injured. Also thanks to a high-ranking healer. All external injuries had already been treated. It's a good thing it showed up in its normal state before his family. His injuries on entry were simply horrible. That's why it must be why he hasn't recovered yet. Awareness men. Jong was surprised that could really be a normal state. How could a doctor say such a thing? The doctor apologized and pointed out that he had expressed himself badly. I simply wanted to say that the patient seemed almost unharmed. The girl kept crying. Min Jong boiled in rage. The sheriff said that the shameless who had done this would pay dearly for everything. Jun Lee Jun quietly entered the room, late at night, saw the sleeping girl and covered her with a blanket. The physician evaluated the patient's condition with an expert eye. Did not make any noise to avoid the child. Reed Rory, who was nearby, said that the sheriff's little sister could be in danger at that time. Jun Lee Jun thought he believed it too. She needed help. Incheon, the industrial district of Cheonggu. An old and abandoned building. A man is eating noodles. Snapshots inside the building. There are shattered bodies around it. There's blood everywhere. Commented that shrimp noodles are the best. Suddenly a voice behind him shouted his name. Ryo Hyun, 37 years old man. 17 previous convictions. Has never worked honestly in his life. A real scum that does nothing but mutilate those around him because of his uncontrollable outbursts of anger. All this was told to the girls who approached slowly to the criminal. Sheriff Man Jung had about a month ago stabbed the owner of an internet cafe to avoid paying a debt. After that, managed to escape from the police cordon thanks to their incredible physical skills. Min Jong added that given that does not appear in the register of the Awakened, it is speculated that he is a man devil who underwent an illegal procedure. To eliminate this potential threat, a sheriff was sent to the scene of the events. Ryu So-yeon saw the girl and remembered she was the same one, sheriff who had rescued a child from a burning building. The villain said that she was very skilled at telling stories. Min Jong stated that it had been confirmed, the death of the property owner and its employees. Ryu So-hyun was arrested for assaulting a detective, breaking and entering, and dozens of other charges. Criminal C laughed and said that she was acting in a very provocative for her as an awake being. Probably all people look like pathetic insects. Ryu So-hyun realized that she had come alone. I really expected him to obey your orders without the sheriff complaining. Showed him his badge and told him to shut up immediately. Had the right to remain silent. Every word he said could now be used against him. She didn't care if he hired a lawyer or not. The criminal's eyes shone. Said they were all the same. All they did was force him to shut up and listen. Simplin had been fortunate to be born luckier than he had. Ryu So-yeon said she had no right to ignore him. wielded his bat and shouted that he was going to destroy it right there. Min said, "S finally taken action." The important thing was that he had read him his rights. Min dodged the bat and counterattacked the bully, punching him in the torso. The next blow to his jaw. Ryu Sohyun staggered and dropped the bat. Blood gushed from his mouth. Min continued his attack, with a kick to the head knocked the criminal to the ground. The girl realized that this scoundrel had spoken of so much luck and injustice. This was really all I was able to do. Min realized that this scoundrel had left the C-ranking hunter in a terrible state. So it couldn't be so weak. That sheriff extended his hand and told the scoundrel to get up immediately. I hadn't even started hitting him yet. Ryu Sohyun raised his head, stood up with a jump and screamed loudly, threw a punch and pounced on the sheriff. Min dodged the attack and said he was very slow and clumsy. After that, the girl delivered another series of blows to her opponent. Sohyun kept coughing blood. Min was puzzled she was really so weak. After another blow, Sohyun flew to one side and fell to the ground. The sheriff approached the criminal again and asked him why he was sitting there. Min kicked him and told the shameless to get up immediately. I really thought he was going to get rid of it so easily. Eugen said that this woman, I had no right to look at him with such a scornful. The villain shouted that she had no right to belittle him. After that, there was a bright flash and the criminal was transformed. Now the boy pounced on Min trying to dodge it effectively. The sheriff attacked again, but this time the suspect, the angel, will stand counterattacked, and Min received a strong blow that made her leave, flying backwards. The girl managed to stay on her feet, however, realized that he was now facing a more dangerous opponent. The boy said that the games were over. The woman would regret having come here. Min said he had learned it from the beginning. That was the true form of the devil. His movements had lacked technique. But now she was hovering like a gymnast. The sheriff stated that now that everything had been confirmed, no longer had to be painted. Min activated his fire ability and said she was now ready to give her all. A ball of fire appeared in his hand. The girl threw the ball and hit the angel in the head. The head caught fire and the fire began to burn brightly. The heat wave caused the teeth of paradise to were fired out in all directions. But he showed no fear. Min activated the chain reaction, and the boy's body was engulfed in flames. Sin and Bartola, sheriff realized that the fire was beginning to go out, which surprised her. The girl saw that the boy was devouring the flames. How it was possible? The suspect said the sheriff was a scoundrel, but that its flames were quite rich. The boy thanked the girl for the fire, and added that the flames had really animated him. Min realized that the boy had recorded. Their attacks became faster and stronger. The sheriff blocked her opponent's blows, but now they were more accurate. The more fire he consumed, the stronger he became normally. The physical strength of demons corresponds to rank B, although at that time his was closer to the rank of. It was not surprising that he had defeated Kim Man. His Min shortened the distance until it was within reach, and punched his opponent right in the head. The boy limited himself to laughing in response and told him to hit him. Even stronger. Ryu Sohyun asked the sheriff to attack him properly with his llama. At least once again. Min realized that this Tuesday was clearly some kind of pervert. The opponents exchanged a series of blows. Neither of us got the lead. Min thought he had the advantage of speed, but his opponent was much stronger. The more the fight gets used to, the faster he would run out of strength. The angel uses flames to regenerate himself. If you let me hit you with a single blow, the fight will be practically lost. Its fire completely suppresses the abilities of the woke up. The last thing the girl wanted to admit was that it was no match for this championship. Min decided that after all, I would have to accept it. If I didn't face the truth, I couldn't win. had to concentrate. If his opponent dealt him a single accurate blow, could not maintain its position. The boy approached, enough to ask the sheriff what I was thinking so intensely. In the middle of the fight, Min Jong realized that he had become even faster. Yujin attacked and the sheriff fell to the ground. The girl felt pain and realized that she had stumbled upon metal bars. That is body. The boy said they were all like that. Everyone called him, they despised him, they ignored him, and they thought it was worthless. Yu Su-hyan added that he had now acquired power to dust down these useless hunters. Now no one would dare to ignore it. The boy approached and asked if the woman on her knees wanted to beg him clemency. Perhaps he would sympathize with her and spare her life. Min Jung raised his hand and made a sleeve cut to the Colombian. Added that a pathetic spectacle was spreading before her. Ryu So-hyan got mad, wielded his fist and pounced on the sheriff. Min Jong closed his eyes and thought that was the end of his life. Kim Won would take revenge, but nothing happened. Min Young opened his eyes and saw the owner of the standing before her. Lee Jung got in the way between her and the angel and blocked his way. The girl was surprised. What was the master doing there? Jun the boy by the head and squeezed him tightly. The boy was surprised. What was going on here? Jun asked him who the owner was. He was outraged. How dare he, that scoundrel, to put his hand on him, to his precious client. Li Ruri approached the sheriff. The girl was holding a bottle of liquid. Said that his uncle had asked him to give it to his little sister. Min Jung realized that it was a healing potion on the sheriff took the mirror and thanked Ruri for his help. She said she had a little petition for the girl. The girl asked Ruri, who covered his eyes with his hands and did not look. The sheriff thought that if he drank the potion now, his wounds would heal in an instant. Overcoming the intense pain, Min Jung bowed forward and slid down the metal bars. Blood gushed with renewed strength. Covering the wound with his hand, Min Jung drank the healing potion in one gulp. The wounds began to close before his eyes. The sheriff thought that potion was at least mid-range. Min Jung stroked the girl's head and told him that he could now open his eyes. The girl thanked Ruri and commented that he was now feeling much better. Li Jung continued to hold the angel by the arm. Ryu Su-hyan demanded the man to be released by the master. Crashed the boy to the ground with all his might. Told him it would be better for him not to resist. The boy jumped to his feet. Fire broke out of his mouth. The villain said he would never forgive this man. The boy opened his mouth wide open and launched a powerful flare. Li Jun did not suffer the slightest scratch. The teacher punched him in the head. To paradise, in paradise. That's what you call fire breath. Min Jung attracted the girl to himself and said it was incredible. The master had dissipated the fire breath of the desert with nothing but a breath of air. The boy looked around. I just found out where the man Li had gone. Jun suddenly appeared behind the mirror and told him that he was terribly distracted. The teacher hit the boy again and knocked him to the ground. The young man replied rudely to the boy and asked if he understood what had done wrong. Ryu So-hyan. I didn't know where to hide and I thought I didn't know what he had done wrong. The protagonist continued to hit the villain and told him not to talk to adults like that. The teacher had to be polite. Commented that words would be of no use in this case. Is that this guy is not caught by the guy. Added that he had always hated people who don't know how to. What is your place, Yun Li Yan? Added that the Argentine had made 2 serious mistakes. Ryu So-hyan shouted that he had done nothing wrong. If there was someone to blame, we're humans in all this rotten world. The protagonist kicked the butt and told him he had to listen until the end and not interrupt when adults are talking. The man asked who had taught that boy to be so rude. The good lesson must be taught. Li Jun added that this guy had made 2 mistakes. First, had raised his hand against a regular customer of the second master. This scoundrel had ruined a father's celebration, who wanted to congratulate his daughter on her birthday. The beating of the boy continued. Ryu so high and yelled at the man to stop. Admits he really made a mistake. Li Jun continued. In third place, saw the girl's tears on her birthday. The master added that in fourth place, that had infuriated him deeply. Min Qian said that the master could really kill that boy, even though that scoundrel deserved it. The sheriff covered the girl's eyes with her hands and told Ruri not to look at the mirror. Now Trecho said that the man had only two motives. Why did he keep hitting him? Li was surprised. What did the boy mean by that? The protagonist calmed down and stood up. The bloody corpse was already standing still. The boy said he was finally feeling relieved. Min Jong said he would never thought I would see a class demon be of high rank, reduced to a mass of flesh, and had learned without any special ability, only with bare hands. Min Jong asked who was really the master. The master realized that the wounds on the girl's body had healed perfectly. I could even walk. Min Jong said that right now there was something more important. Li Jun told the sheriff not to worry too much about it. I had simply lent a hand to a regular customer. Li Jun turned around and beat the sheriff. She already knows who he really is, doesn't she? Is only the owner of a local bar. Upon leaving the room, the protagonist said that if the sheriff felt I owed him something, I could pass by there more often and drink more. The teacher told the girl it was time for them to go home. Min Jong sat in the mirror. At that time I had many questions accumulated, but I couldn't find the answer. The girl remained in the hospital room, by his sick father's bed. The man woke up, opened his eyes, and saw his daughter sleeping next to him. Kim Min-soo told his daughter that her father had given her a good scare. The girl woke up, saw that his father was awake, and threw himself into his arms. Enro and Lee Ruri ran as fast as they could in the right direction. Enro said that they had almost arrived and that Ruri had to hurry. Enro told Ruri to go in first. The girl thought she understood. Enro saw the girl running away. Lee Ruri was already on the doorstep of the room. Enro turned around and saw a huge buck in front of her, red ruts. Why Enro has stopped? Should run away with her as quickly as he can. Enro swallowed a pill and told Ruri to listen carefully. The mentor explained that if the child was captured again, would treat her worse than a laboratory rat. That is why he had to flee immediately, as far as possible, so I could live and free. Enro turned around and walked towards the balcony. Ruri looked at her mentor in fear. Enro broke the wall combination lock, and the door slammed shut. The woman said that if she blocked all the exits from there, no one could pursue the child for a long time. Ruri began to cry and ended up. Enro will not come with her. Enro prepared for lunch and said that Ruri was a smart girl, and that he had to understand what was about to happen. The mentor repeated that the girl had to flee quickly. They dimmed to do so. Ruri stood still for a moment, with the girl running down her cheeks. Ran to the door, closed, and shouted that this should not happen. After all, Enro had promised her that they would run away together. Ruri continued to weep and repeat his mentor's pleas. The morning came. Li Jun was still sleeping in his bed, murmuring in dreams that Ruri was no longer worth it. She had been awake for a long time. Took a pillow and threw it at his Uncle Jun's head. Li Jun opened his eyes and called the little rascal girl. Ruri, I wish his uncle good morning. The teacher the pillow and ran after the girl. Reminded him that he had already asked him not to throw at him pillows in the face of someone who was sleeping. Ruri was already 12 years old. The girl knew something about herself. Is a secret, but in reality they were born as a result of an experiment carried out by a secret organization. That's probably why he had been so sensitive to mana flows since birth. And his was excellent. I always knew when something was coming together. When the doors got out of control, it seemed as if the air currents were changing, or the space was tearing apart at the seams. A message appeared on his smartphone, saying that the door had opened again. A wave of mana had been detected nearby. Ruri said the scarred guy would come today. Yuna felt and asked how the girl knew it. Ruri thought it was none of his business. Since Ruri came here, had been of great help and had earned honestly his livelihood, Enro had said. Who always had to work to earn a living. In order to react, the guy you can trust is called Junli. Does not know how old he is. He does not like to talk about himself. Others often call him the owner of the bar. This man has a strange personality, but he is really a good person. Like, joking with those around him, but he never goes overboard. Ruri has never seen him hurt anyone at times. When savages or bandits appear nearby, goes alone to confront them and then comes back. Ruri once followed him in secret and saw how strong he is, like a fairy tale monster. Recently, even saved sheriff men. Joan, when Ruri was in danger, realized that she had also had something to do with that. Thanks to the potion she carried, his sister's wounds, little girl healed without a trace. Ruri thought he liked his uncle very much, although he complains every day. Always does what she asks. The Ruri was soft to her uncle. Junli was outreach. The girl was looking for a fight. His uncle put up the plate of food on the table and told him to shut up while eating. The girl thanked the teacher for the food. Ruri knew that his uncle never denied him anything. Complains that he doesn't like it at all, but does everything she asks of him. He is also an excellent cook. His food was the most delicious he had ever tasted. Ruri didn't understand why there was no menu in this pub. Maybe the owner was too lazy to make one. Ruddy ran out of food and thanked him for the food. Junli told the girl to leave. All dishes soaking in the sink. Ruddy ran to the bar and sat down next to the other customers. Min-jun and Kim Hwan looked at the ruddy girl, looked at the customers and told the man that she also wanted something to drink, just like them. Junli said he was still too young. I couldn't drink for another 10 years. Reed Rudd began to demand his drink and to repeat that his uncle will prepare it. Junli commented that the girl was very. Min-jun offered to prepare non-alcoholic cocktail for him. Junri thought it was not a matter of money. If they allowed him all his whims, she might become too spoiled. Lee Ruri was offended. He turned around and said his uncle was a real fool. Jun scratched the back of his head and suggested that a glass would not make him no damage. The waiter said to add cocktail ice. They will fill it to the top with foam ale etchern of grenadine and they will decorate it with a cherry. Junli left the glass on the table and said surely temper was ready. Is the cocktail perfect for a child who wants to imitate adults? The waiter noted that Shirley Temple was the name of the most famous child star of the 1930s Hollywood. Being the only girl at an adult-only party, could not drink cocktails with alcohol, so the waiter created the first cocktail. No alcohol of history only for Junli. Added that no one knows for sure what came out of that cocktail. Reed Ruri said it was the first cocktail he tasted in his life. The girl tried it and said it was very tasty. Sweet with a slight acidic touch. Junli said he had only added a little syrup. Ruri could remember the taste and prepare it herself next time if she wanted to. The girl said that next time, he would ask his uncle again without fail. Min-jun commented that no matter how much I explain it to you now, he would eventually end up preparing it himself next time. Lee Ruri said his uncle was very kind. Always listened to her. The girl pointed out that today she had shared a secret about itself. People should not have known the whole truth about them. Otherwise, would have to leave. Or they would let her die in the street again. Lee Ruri took his finger to his lips and said it was a secret. I could not tell anyone. The gym with fitness machines was full of light and fresh air. The boy was doing everything possible to raise the bar from the ground. The young man was strong, and he succeeded. Stood up, standing upright, holding the bar with his hands. The boy exclaimed that he had made it. Was very fond of himself. A friend approached him and told him that he had done a great job. I had told him I would make it. The young man considered it a success, as he had lifted 120 kilos at dead weight. The sportsman said he had had to work very hard to achieve it. Started with an empty bar and trained for a whole year. At least 3 times a week without breaks. We can now consider that he is no longer a beginner. The boy heard someone ask if the site next to the machine was free. I guess so, and that it would quickly remove the weights from the bar. The girl told him not to. That weight was perfect for her. The young people were surprised to see the girl approach the bar. The boy explained that the weight was indeed very heavy. The girl approached the bar in it with her hands. The stranger straightened up and raised the bar. Performed the exercise at the same weight. The young people remained silent with their mouths open. They could not believe that the girl would be able to lift such a weight. Repeated the exercise more than 10 times. Min Young was concentrated and did not pay attention to the spectators. The girl thought, who he is after all, how could he? Someone see this and claim that he was only the owner of a bar. A retired rank B could not even keep up with his movements. That speed was at least of rank to the reconstituting potion that he had given him. Was undoubtedly of the best quality, without intoxication. Next day he trained without the slightest discomfort. That was the best test. The potion was worth at least 5 million. Min Jong said that living in debt was definitely not his style. I already owed the master. How he was supposed to pay the debt now? Min Jong shouted that this was bothering her very much. Who he really is. The young people said that he had raised 138 times. Is incomprehensible. Does not look like a normal girl at all. Could really be a slayer. Min Jong answered the incoming call. Jiansen District. The Orc neighborhood. The television presenter said that one of the hottest topics was the alarming and rapid spread of a new religion. It is known that a certain the union is responsible for the activities of this organization. There have been reports of a massive concentration of Colombians. The film crew is already headed to the site. Kim Hwan moved around the house with indifference, chewing gum as usual. A bloody man was sitting motionless on the floor. Held an identification card in his hand. Kim Hwan coldly inspected the crime scene. Min Jong, standing near there, said that this man had been studied with special brutality. Judging by the numerous stab wounds, the crime was committed in an outburst of anger or out of a burning hatred. Judging by the depth and nature of the wounds, the bones had been completely. The boy is a very skilled man with weapons, and that it possesses immense strength. The sheriff added that if the criminal had been able to defeat a hunter of rank D, it was clear that he was not just any civilian. It was possible that the criminal was himself a hunter. Min Jong, if that meant Kim Hwan had called her because the victim was a hunter. The boy confirmed it. After all, if the criminal is a hunter, the police would not be very helpful in this case. Kim Hwan added that if she had the opportunity to put her friend to work, the sheriff, it would be a sin not to take advantage of her. The sheriff said that in this case, I would invite Kim Hwan to a round of drinks. Reported that on Tuesday, had been arrested today at 7 o'clock in the morning. Was found by an employee who had come to open the building. This building belongs to the Tiger Guild. Min In pointed out that to begin with, had established a barrier to their perception pressure, so that civilians would not see the crime scene. No one needs rumors during an investigation. So only a small circle of people within the guild knows what has happened. Min Jong pointed out that they had done everything correctly. Kim Hwan added that the union leader had interrogated his. It is not the first time something like this has happened. If we count only the confirmed cases, there have already been 7. All the victims turned out to be rank hunters. 7 or lower. The corpses were found near the Orc settlement. The identity of the suspect has not yet been established, but its rank is not supposed to be lower than rank B. Min Jong pointed out that lately, every time something happens, there is always a B rank hunter involved, and these hunters represent no more than 20% of the total. where so many have suddenly come from. There could have been a demographic explosion among the elite. Kim Hwan added that there was another. It's not something people usually talk about. However, hunters often kill each other. After all, it's practically impossible to completely control the awakened. But in most cases, these murders occur in dungeons. Min Jung said that made sense. If the dungeon is clean, the crime scene disappears without a trace. The guy noted that this criminal had deliberately chosen the busy place for murder. This suggests that he could not use a more brunette, or that he had some specific goal in mind. Min Jung suggested that it may have been registered under a false name. Kim Hwan thought that possibility existed. Could be one of those who had awakened skills but had not been registered with the association, or that he had intentionally forged your range information. Informed with honesty of one's own skills is the sacred duty of every hunter. Were included as possible risk factors. The victim is Cho Man-hyuk, 21 years old, a hunter of D ranked. 3 days ago, the guild summoned him and wanted to send him to the dungeon. But I never understand. Since that day, was considered missing until his body was found here. Kim Hwan noted that as a hand-to-hand fighter, was in excellent physical shape. Everyone expected this rookie to reach the rank C, as he was the youngest member of the Kim Hwan team. Pointed out that if it were up to him, would face personally to the criminal and would take care of him. However, he had to go into the dungeon in 2 hours, and therefore left the investigation in the competent hands of the men. Chiang reminded him that the right to impart justice is the responsibility of the sheriff. There would be many problems if ordinary hunters began to take justice into their own hands. Kim Hwan nodded and added that he counted on her. The sheriff took pictures and took the necessary notes. Tests had been completed. Min Jung said he had written it all down, and that now was the time to leave on a reconnaissance mission. The girl pointed out that the strangers are not welcome in the city of orcs, so he could not manage without help. Min Jung decided to contact the priest, Kim Dog-B. He knows the orc district like the back of his hand, and won't even back down. In the face of a ring, Lee Jun awakening, Lee Jun welcomed him to the sheriff if he wanted me to accompany her in his research in the orc district. The answer was that yes. The teacher said that he would be denied and that he didn't even want to hear about it. Min Jung could go home. Lee Jun commented that it would be too complicated. Why would do that? In the neighborhood of the Zorkos, the locals reported that there was no mestizos who will interact with outsiders. Min Jung noted that he did not expect another response. Lee Jun accompanied the girl in the investigation. Lee Jun got angry and told the orcs to release everything they knew immediately. In this way they could separate on good terms. The orcs were terrified. Realized that they were facing a rabid dog. This was precisely the type of person that she was willing to destroy anyone who didn't like him. One of the thugs commented that the rabid dog never forgets those who have been hurt. However, they really knew nothing. Had been on a mission on land, distant for several days, and had only returned to the orc settlement that same morning. Lee Jun pointed out that if they knew nothing, why they were delaying the matter was simply. Min Jung was surprised. They really called the master rabid dog Lee Jun. Admitted that the sheriff did suggest continue the search to see if anything was happening playing over there. The owner of the bar said the girl was doing a great job. In that case he could go home. Continued to interrogate the locals. Everyone had something to say, and the detectives moved on. Min Jung asked questions and Lee Jun launched threats when necessary. The investigation continued. The sheriff said that they have been going on for 4 hours now, traveling around town, but they had not discovered anything useful. Lee Jun commented that he would have been better off staying at home drinking a beer and watching the national song contest. At least he had suddenly brought a bottle. Min Jung saw an old talking to one of the locals. The sheriff called it was Kim Dog-Bae. The priest and the neighbor chatted and said goodbye amicably. The detectives approached. The priest had not yet noticed his presence. Kim Da-bae was absorbed in their thoughts when someone behind him asked him what was going on. There might be some kind of problem. Kim Da-bae turned around and was surprised to see Min Jong in front of him. The priest observed that the owner of it had also arrived just in time. Assumed that this had to do with the reason why the sheriff had come there. To the young men, saw a group of orcs hiding their faces under hoods. All looked in the same direction. The orcs listened to a speaker. The leader declared that his people had once been a great race that ruled the infinite steppes. In those lands milk and honey always flowed, and no one knew about hunger. Security there was of a high standard. Only the great god Orcus rose above them. Before him they were all the same. Yet a fateful day, their ancestors were into this world. Through a space rift the earth, strange in which they suddenly found themselves, was narrow. This land was smelly and repulsive. The orc settlement on the of the country proved to be too small for the people who once were, had been proud, and had ruled the steppes. The speaker said that they had accepted be scarce lands, even though they had not asked to be brought here. Were well aware that for the local population they were unwanted guests. Strength lies in the merciful orcs. Were the first to reach out to the locals to achieve unanimity. The Argentine speaker. How people move. Orcs were treated as an inferior race by the despised and oppressed them in every possible way. The public supported the speaker with cheers of approval. The priest and the investigators showed solidarity. Watched the meeting from a corner. The sheriff noted that recently, a sect called Orcus had been gaining strength, which had caused the radical orcs to begin to attack hunters. Kim Da-bae pointed out that it was not exactly a sect, but rather of the traditional faith of its people. His people received their name from the god Orcus. Was an ancient faith, and deeply. The priest added that they came from another world, and their culture differed greatly of that of humans. For them, battle had always been a matter of honor, and death was a sign of nobility. Its entire social structure was based on the combat, for they were a warlike town. There is freedom of worship in this country, therefore, the mere existence of such a religion is not a problem. The problem is that they also practice it. Impulsive orcs that are dissatisfied with today's society. The new laws have made life easier for this people. Sin embargo, discrimination continues to in society. Young Lee pointed out that discrimination will not disappear. People are not even able to get along well with each other. Min Jong said this was amazing. Kim Da-bae is a follower of old beliefs, but decided to become a priest. How did Da-bae make this decision? B, who decided to become a priest? Because orcs are strangers in this country. To find common ground with the indigenous population, considered it necessary to study their main cultural traditions and to adopt them as a legion. Pointed out that religion is the cloak most widespread cultural activity worldwide. Da-bae's decision, B, of becoming the world's first orc priest, was an attempt to tend bridges to the cultural integration of humans and orcs. Kim Da-bae said the teacher was absolutely right. Min Jong, why complicate things so much? We could simply have a drink together and become friends. Kim Da-bae said the sheriff was right. It would be great if all problems could be solved in this way. Jin Lee-chan suggested that they find out who had been so brave to attack hunters. The speaker continued his speech, urging everyone to remember in people's eye an endless discrimination orcs face in society. The public again supported the speaker with approval cheers. The speaker said that thanks to his innate strength, work for 3 people, but they are still only temporary workers. They are paid half of what humans are paid for this work. The real killer orc his brothers would stand by and tolerate this injustice. The audience raised their hands and cheered the speaker once again. Jun realized that he is playing. He even used a war cry. Apparently, secret meetings were not popular with each other. The priest said that if they tried to match the criminals' vague descriptions, it would be difficult to find out anything. Everyone present was wearing menjiang hoods, came out of hiding and said that in situations like this, it was easier and faster to face everything head-on. Decided to go first, while his colleagues would observe the princess's reaction and would look for any suspicious person. The sheriff ranked in a prominent place and asked everyone to pay attention to him for a moment. Min showed his plate, presented herself as the sheriff, and explained that he was investigating an incident that had occurred in the vicinity of would need the collaboration of all. Local orcs were surprised. Is not a sheriff, a hunter-investigator. What is a sheriff doing here? One of the orcos became very nervous and tried to leave the area. Jun realized this and said that someone was trying to escape. Min Jung also noticed and decided to pursue them. The sheriff shouted to the orc to stop immediately and showed their identity documents. The orc kept running. The sheriff shouted that he had to be caught, and Jun also ran after him. Min Jong, pushing the orcs away, quickly ran after the fleeing figure of the speaker, watched in silence as the scene unfolded. Did not expect to see the priest there accompanied by people. The priest also stared into the speaker's eyes. Ira Park Chumbi. Chumbi, looking at the priest, shouted his name out loud. Kim Da Bi Min Jong. The priest by the shoulder and spoke to him what I was doing and why he had stopped, as this would allow them to lose the. The priest nodded and said he was on his dog's side. B turned around and also ran after the panic and caught him for leaving too many footprints. Should have stopped after the first two attempts. Orko hid on his return corner and decided that now they would not find him. However, Jun suddenly appeared behind him. The orc had not seen it yet and thought no one would find him in his own neighborhood. Jun addressed that have all really dispersed. The orc frightened and receded. The master then by the neck and it so that he would not run away again. Dog Bai and Min Jong also arrived and saw that the master had caught him. The protagonist said that it had not been difficult. I didn't even expect it to turn out so well. The priest looked at it and I found it was Chunyan. The orc shouted that he had made a mistake and that he would never do it again. Doc B expressed his doubts that it was the criminal. Is nothing more than a child. I couldn't even handle an F-ranked hunter. Min Jong was surprised. Then and why was he running away? Jun was already surprised. These people were not there because he had robbed drunken hunters in the street. Jun asked the priest if he had sent the child home. Doc confirmed it and added that he had given him a good scolding and had let him go. The priest said he would compensate unconditionally for the damages caused. Min Jong agreed. For a priest's salary was nothing more than a caldrilla. Dao B objected, saying that although he earned little as a priest, had other sources of income, so everything was fine. The priest added that the Zork district does not receive help from hunters, and who have to take care of the doors on their own. Yun Li noted that hunters used to help the locals. However, due to discrimination and endless complaints, the consequences became dire. As a result, the orcs decided to take care of the doors on their own. And the Hunters Association welcomed this decision with open arms. Kim Da Be noted that the Vatican had even, I need a personal permit to clear the doors. But if the doors get too big, as to ask for help from the Hunters Association. Doc B thought that Zogs are a powerful breed. 14 years of age are considered adults, and an adult orc is so strong as a hunter of D ranking. The priest added that judging by the sheriff's account, the shield must have been at least of rank B. Even among orcs there are few like that. Min Jong asked if I had someone in mind. The priest remembered the speaker Park Chong-bai and said he had a suitable candidate. Is strong enough as to hunt a B-ranked hunter and harbors a deep sensitivity towards humans. Min Jong suggested that they now knew which direction to take in its research. But how should they proceed? It was unlikely that the murderer would confess if they simply approached him and asked him. Jun Li-chun stated that at times like this, needed a bait. The boy who held the candy said he wanted to come back quickly and give their friends gifts from the thrushes. Was the rank hunter seeing Na Jong Seok? The child said that these snacks were very satiating and that everyone would love to. Why, there was no shortage of such treats until now. But boy in a hood was secretly following the child. The pursuer held a heavy adjustable wrench in his hand. The boy commented out loud that I should stop at a store on the way and buy another drink. The distance between the boy and his pursuer was narrowing. Ong Seok was still not suspecting anything. All of a sudden, the hunter heard behind him and trembled with fear. Na Hong Suk stopped and abused his ear. Someone was approaching. The boy turned around and looked around in surprise. There was no one behind him, only a deserted street illuminated by the moon and a lamppost. Ong Seok decided that he should have imagined it. But the pursuer appeared on the other side and was already wielding a wrench. At the last moment, Ong Seok managed to dodge it and jumped to one side. The pursuer fell to the ground, spilling the contents of the bag, and looked with fear at the weapon of the villain home. Hyuk ran out screaming that he was being chased by the villain. Ran after the boy who kept asking for help while running. Hong Seok thought that if there had not been cast a protective spell as indicated by his master would surely have died. But where was his master? The hunter turned the corner and realized that he had come to an alley with no way out. He had no way out, no place to flee. The villain caught up with the boy and told him he was quite. But this is where you will have to say goodbye to life, added the criminal. Hooded man claimed that the boy had been in hot water for about 2 weeks, snooping around the area. I would be looking for a way to attack the orcs. Also admitted that it was a gastronomic tour. The orc thought he didn't believe him. The young man insisted that he was telling the absolute truth. Had nothing to hide. The orc wielded the wrench again. Man only has to blame himself for polluting the atmosphere of this neighborhood with its presence. The young man covered his face with your hands and screamed loudly for someone to save him. Kim Dog-bai suddenly appeared. The criminal's gun and prevented the attack. The priest saw the aggressor and said that it had been a long time that were not visible. The aggressor turned out to be Park Chun-bai. The priest pointed out that at the beginning had doubts, but that it really was Park Chun-bai. Kim Dog-bai pointed out that a key English was a tool for repairs, not to attack people. Park Chun-bai screamed. Whoever has this key in their hands decides how to use it. The offender knocked down his opponent and lifted his leg to hit him. Park Chung-bai thought that if that rookie hunter was a dickhead, the sheriff's killers could be nearby. The villain realized that he was alone, and that their enemies were many. Before the situation turned against him, had to get out of there quickly and assess the situation. The priest chased him. Did not want to let the criminal suddenly escape on. Sheriff and the owner crossed paths on the park road. Chambei-jun, Ri-jun, where that guy was in such a hurry to go. Min-jung declared that dog had finally caught him. They immediately ran and kicked the priest added that now this guy could not escape. Passers-by watched as the two orcs settled their differences. Min-jung noted that he had only bitten the hook after 2 weeks. Jin Li-jun added that this was due to the fact that the district of thugs had attracted the attention of sheriffs, and they had to be cautious. Hong Seok announced that his mission had begun. The sheriff thanked the hunter and admitted that he had found it difficult act as Sibo. Hong Seok commented that he was happy to have helped and that he would be willing to do so in the future. Hong Seok said thank you to the barrier that the master had taught him to lift, and felt calm. Even if a powerful enemy had appeared, civilians would not have suffered any damage. The protagonist denoted the remarkable reputation of Hong Sok-to-man would be an exceptional magician. The young man hunter admitted that he really hoped it would be so, since he also wanted to become a rank hunter. That Hong Sok commented that at the beginning had been afraid in the York district, but that despite its fearsome appearance, everyone there was very friendly. He loved it very much. He was pleased to make a small gastronomic tour. Pork soup proved to be especially delicious, and there were countless ways to prepare at home. Thiak added that he liked it, especially a plate of hot soup with a shot of soju. Jun Li-jun thought that the combination of soup and soju sounded simply incredible. The hunter looked at his watch and said it was almost time of a home raid. Asked the owner if he could leave. Jun Li-jun told him that he could leave and added that the local "I would invite you to drinks for a month." Han Siak especially liked that last comment. So you could save money on beverages. The protagonist said goodbye to the boy with his hand, and I wish you a safe journey back home. Min Jong pointed out that the boy was very young, but he was already a hunter. Jun Li-jun said that appearances can be deceiving. I was already 26 years old. The sheriff was surprised. I had thought that the boy was still in high school. The teacher admitted that indeed had a childish face. Min Young was even more surprised. It could be that the teacher was saying that Hong Siak was the same age as Kim Da-bi, yet his skin was as soft as that of a baby. What could be the secret of the sheriff? Assumed that the hunter possessed the ability of youth. Eternal had to discover the secret behind that skin. At all costs, Jun Li-jun watched the orcs fighting, and thought the only thing left was to stop the criminal. The orcs fought fiercely, dodging each other's blows. Again and again Kim Dog-bi and Park Chun-bi hit each other simultaneously, and when their fists, a huge burst of magical energy was released. The opponents were shot in different directions, but they managed to stay on their feet. On Tuesday, continued the priest. It could be that the serial killer, who mercilessly slaughtered hunters outside Park Chun-bi. Chun-bi said he wanted to clarify something. Their targets were only humans among the hunters. Dog beat why he did it. Chun-bi was surprised. Had the priest not yet understood the orcs are those who were once the center of the universe, now look like tears in the eyes of humans. Embody spirit and honor are noble beings. Dialogues with human heroes. Chun-bi noted that a single orc had the strength of 50 human men. Were at a level of development completely different from that of humans. There was not a single one reason why they could not lead this world and rule it all. Dog-bi said then Chong B was hunters on his own to reduce their number. Before the war, orcs are few, while humans are innumerable. Human hunters are no weaker than orcs. Chun-bi is the priest really a defeatist? Wants the orcs to bow their heads to humans. For centuries to come, Kim Da-bi stated that this was not at all what he meant. Chun-bi had hoped that the priest to become a great leader who will guide all orcs. After all, he was the humble descendant of his lineage was strong, and had demonstrated time and time again that he was worthy of being a leader. Through the veins of the priest, the strongest blood runs of the warriors of the orc tribe, however, betrayed those expectations by becoming a voting fanatic. Is a great disgrace. Is not afraid of the moment when, after death, be presented before the god. Orcus Dog-bi said that for the sake of saving his people, Chun-bi had to face the truth. We're but a minority in a world populated by humans. The sensible decision would be to coexist peacefully with them. No fight. Chun-bi commented that all these were empty words. What future and what hope they could hope for by betraying its roots? The priest said that he had waited in vain for his brother to I would understand. Dog-bi added that Chun-bi was right. If all the glasses that had emptied together, they had not opened his brother's heart. Then nothing would change now. Park Chun B took off his cape and said that the priest talked too much. Made it clear that the fight would continue. Park Chun B added that it no longer made sense to keep talking. The villain added that from now on would only communicate with their fists. Doc B I thought that if it could not be prevented from doing so. The priest commented that he had no choice but to accept it. As befits a warrior, was ready to fight one-on-one. The priest also took off his cape and prepared to continue the championship. Kim Dog B playing his opponent brother and added that he was challenging a duel with a duel of honor Maddie. A battle one-on-one form of dialogue to which the Zerkos resort as a last resort when they reach a battle in which everyone brings their beliefs into play. Ideals and justice. For orcs, the word of the victor is the ultimate truth. The loser is obliged to submit without question to the will of the victor. However, if a warrior cannot accept such a result, only one way left. Fight to the end. Dog B hit his opponent's jaw with all his might. Chun B dies the same way. The opponents clashed again with exchanges of blows. Then his legs came into play. However, they knew each other well and blocked skillfully attacks. Chun B shouted that this time the priest would meet his end and swung the leg to hit. Opponents moved from one end of the room to the other and retreating to counterattack. Chun B said that the only thing he knew to become a priest was to go backwards. Should face his opponent like a real man. The Colombian criminal Red bound the warrior who was once so proud had really become a weakling after having become priest. Chun B reminded him that in his youth had supported each other, who would dedicate their lives to their people. Perhaps the oath they took, toasting with his drinks in his youth, means nothing at all. Chun B followed, beating, and said he expected a response from his brother. Had that oath been a lie? Dog B thought it wasn't a lie. His desire to dedicate his life to orcs remained strong. And even now I don't understand otherwise. Chun B declared that everything was a lie. Perhaps his brother, I was really saying that I had done everything for the Chun B orcs, added that the only thing that the priest was to wag his tail in front of people like a bludgeoned dog. For a moment, the opponents found themselves in opposite corners of the room. This gave them the opportunity to catch their breath. Chun B commented that his opponent was trampling on the honor of orcs without having fought a single battle, as befits a true warrior. Dog B said the result was obvious. Really means being a warrior, to find death after a grueling battle. Rivals continued to strike each other with renewed vigor. Chun B began to spit blood. Doc B repeated that he was doing all this for the orcs. However, his brother refused to recognize him no matter how much I explained it to him. The priest reminded him that Chun B had said that they no longer needed words. Doc B declared that the winner would judge the rectitude of each of its actions. Men Jung and Jun Li-jun watched in silence the battle, as if it were an Indian action movie, with a lot of dialogue and a lot of blows. The only thing missing was the music. Min Jung playing master. They were really going to stand there and watch. Jun Li-jun commented that it was better not to interfere at that time. For orcs, a duel is a sacred ritual. Through it determine who was right and who was not. Anyone who dares to interfere will become the enemy. Bidders of all orcs. The sheriff commented that these words reminded him of a certain card game. Jun Li-jun agreed that there was some uncertainty. The master, could the sheriff see Dog's body by? Did not have a single smile. Jun Li-jun noted that perhaps this orc would not have completed all the dungeons, but without a doubt had participated in assaults on doors of rank 2. The fact that there was not a single fly left in his body realized its incredible strength. Jun Li-jun told the sheriff not to worry. Even among orcs, strong men like Doc B are few and far between. The girl was surprised. Was Dog B really that strong? Chun B thought that for the sake of the thugs, had fought again and again, becoming much stronger than before. Why then he still couldn't beat Dog B? Power and triumph was not that glory, destined for a noble warrior chosen by Bjorkus himself. Chumby thought. It could be that as a warrior, was inferior to its rival, a failure lackey who had fallen in the faith of men. Park Chum refused to accept this. Said Orcus. I had long given up on all of them. For when he left the world of orcs, no one could deny it anymore. It is not worth it, clinging to a false god for the sake of all orcs. Chumby said his rival should reach out to him and gain great power, then together would defeat this vile traitor who had blocked his brother's path. That traitor should be made billion pieces to cause him pain. He had to become a mere step on the road to a bright future. The body of Park Chun-bi began to transform with his eyes shining brightly. Park Chun-bi became a toad who immediately attacked the priest. The mirror resembled the one that had previously possessed Ryu So-hyun, and the one who had appeared in it. There was something they had in common. After another blow, the priest was shot backwards. The shield was much stronger than Chung-bi in its original form. Junli Junwei Minjun immediately realized that it was the way to demonization of the sheriff. Realized that this energy was clearly above the rank A. Kim Dog-bae lifted his head and diced. What's wrong with my brother? He must have swallowed something that didn't sit well with him, the priest thought. It could be that in the midst of the sacred kills, his brother would have allowed some demonic filth consumed him. The demon with the bright eyes continued to grunt furiously and showing excessive aggressiveness. Doc P called his opponent a stupid scoundrel. With the Maddie was a betrayal of military honor. Was not betraying his own essence as an orc in doing this. The priest dies. Where his brother's much vaunted pride lay. Kim Dog-bae delivered his verdict. Whether the opponent had resorted to such tactics, then he was a real coward. The priest gained momentum, swayed and punched him in the jaw again, followed by a series of relentless blows, but the boy will stand. Simply laughed in response on Tuesday. Counterattacked and the priest flew to one side, again falling to his knees. Dog-bae stated that his opponent, who once had preached about the honor of a warrior, had become a hero, even able to speak consistently. Was this damn fly and its actions really what he wanted? Thanks to his transformation into a demon, Park's strength and speed, Keon had risen to incredible limits. Was now more or less in rank 2. The priest could barely keep up with his attacks. But there was a major problem. Their absurd resistance. Nothing affects him no matter how many blows he receives. If they continue to exchange blows, Dog-bae will be the only one who will run out of strength at the end. The priest reflected on what to do in this situation. Perhaps try to exhaust it by dodging its attacks. If it has grown so much in size, its resistance must have diminished, so that could work. Another option was to give everything and hit in a single point. If he concentrated all his blows in one place, maybe I could that sturdy Dog-bae armor. Decided that all this was nothing more than vain hopes. With so little information, it was impossible to find the right solution immediately on. Priest decided that he would do everything in his power. Minjung playing once again. They were really going to stand there and watch. After all, Chum-bi had already become a demon. The situation had become more dangerous. Judging by the aura, was a demon of rank A. Chun-Li Jun admitted that all this was a failure. But he did not know that his opponent would become a demon. The sheriff asked again. What we do? The protagonist said that if the priest would have defied his opponent to a one-on-one duel, would prefer to bite his tongue, rather than accepting anyone's help. Orcs are very about energy. Demonic can't usually gobble them up just like this. It could be that the guy would have been exposed to demonic energy for too long. Suddenly, a huge reinforced concrete structure part of the building began to collapse, which posed a threat. However, our grandfather reacted in time. With a secure hand movement, the structure and avoided danger. At the same time said that becoming a demon is detrimental to sanity. Sanity is diminished in the process. So it is common, lose the ability to speak or repeat endlessly catchy phrases. Junli Junhead. The older the shoulders are, the greater the advantages. In exchange for a shorter life after demonization, the creature acquires the necessary strength to plan to a hunter on an equal footing. The exact cause of demonization has not yet been determined. Sin embargo, the main factors include poisoning by mana, the erosion of demonic energy, and a conflict of strange forces within the body. If an orc capable of hunting masters of rank B undergoes such a transformation into a demon, its power will be immeasurable. At the same time, suffers virtually no damage. After analyzing the situation, the protagonist came to the conclusion that he should intervene. The Argentine pushed his opponent, and this one began to plummet from the top floor. After the fall, people ran to the priest. Jerif, how the doctor is doing? The priest stood up and thought he was fine. Min Jung realized that he was covered with wounds. Kim Dog had an injured whole body. B told the teacher not to intervene. Under no circumstances. After all, it was a one-on-one duel. The priest added that if someone interfered in the battle, I wouldn't even forgive him. Jun Li. Jun thought he understood everything and remained silent. Dog B thanked the master for his understanding, and added that this was extremely important to him. Kim Dog B headed to the mirror, called him by his name, and reminded him that he was his brother. Dog B commented, if Chumbi really decided to defeat him in this way, would risk everything to stop his brother from. Priest said that before him was not simply a demon, but a warrior tan in 1,000 battles. Chumbi had to remember who he was. I had to remember the moment when they gave a first, and the young orcs made a promise to each other. Were thrown into the street, and were ordered to leave immediately. The cook commented, if people find out that filthy orcs are around here, all the customers will leave in a jiff. Young Ching Dog Bai. I thought they were also customers and had money. The cook spat. An orc has no right to call himself a customer. Will not accept this money. And it is probably false. Park Chumbi suggested to his friend that they leave. Apparently today was not his day. Dog was discouraged. After all, they had done nothing wrong. Why they were treated like this? Chumbi suggested having a drink. Doc B was surprised what he meant. Chumbi commented that on a day as horrible as this one, they simply had to have a drink. He added, that's exactly what I meant. But they are not allowed to drink alcohol until they become adults. That's why I had brought milk. Looks like Macaulay. The young orc suggested, pretending it was alcohol, and drank their glasses in one gulp. After that, could ward off their melancholy. Doc Pass laughed. My friend is talking. Friend stated that as of now, those would be his sibling cups. Until the day the last cup of this world was broken, would live for their orc brothers. Chumbi added that he was willing to give his life by his brother at any time. Kim Dog B noted that his brother had once been kinder to people than he himself. Had learned a lot from each other, for what each of them lacked. The priest asked how his brother had become, in such a terrifying universe, able to the heart of his own brother. Without hesitation, Doc B added that Chumbi had even rejected the honor of an orc, willing to tear him to pieces. The boy continued to growl aggressively, with eyes still bright. The body of priest Kim Dog B lay on the rubble of a brick wall. With its last dog forces, B joined in and looked in the huge mirror. The priest reminded him that a true orc warrior would never succumb to the influence of demonic energy. Even if things had turned out that way, Dog B told his brother that he believed in him. He was a great warrior with whom they had drunk from the same cup. The priest added that he was proud that Changbi was his brother. I knew that Changbi would never desecrate the sacred morning dock. He shouted that his brother had to remember the moment when sealed their bond with the cups of the brotherhood. The boy continued to grunt, showing his teeth. His eyes were still shining on. Sheriff shouted to the suspect to stop immediately. Jun Lijun took a coin out of his pocket and said he could no longer stand idly by. That the priest hated him for in the morning. The protagonist pointed the coin at the boy, stated, if Kim Dog did not intervene at that time, he would undoubtedly die. The coin was stuck in the hero's body, and blood gushed from the wound. Changbi shouted that he was a great orc warrior and gave his name. Didn't realize what he was doing while Dog. He continued to defend himself. The boy said Kim Dog. He was a great warrior whom he had once envied, and a childhood friend with whom he once had forged a bond of friendship. Changbi added that his friend had recently started to preach incomprehensible ideals, calling for peace between orcs and humans. That's what opened a friendship between them. However, in spite of this, Dogby is more dear to him than anyone else in the world. No one can replace it. Why then is he fighting against this friend? Park Chun-bi said he now remembered it. Had a duel. But how had it come to that? No matter how hard I tried to remember it, couldn't find out Kim Dog B moves. What his brother would be saying at the time. Is called him by his name Chung B King Dog. He said in all seriousness that he believed in his brother Chung. He looked at his reflection in the broken glass and did not see himself, but to a reflection. I really looked like that now, Doc. He urged his brother once again to remember the moment in which they had sealed their friendship with a few glasses. At that time Park Chan-bi really remembered the past. The angel was still standing there, bleeding from a wound caused by the coin. The hero shouted that he was the great orc warrior Park Chun-bi. The transformation began to reverse. The priest declared that his brother had finally regained common sense. Chun-bi realized that he had regained common sense. Had not been easy. Although a friendship had been created between them, had done something that warrior orc should never have done. Chun-bi admitted that he had shown a foul of respect in sacred mourning and asked his brother for forgiveness. Doc, he thought he accepted that and understood it had been nothing more than an unfortunate misunderstanding. Chun-bi said that was excellent, and suggested that they continue the duel. Doc B agreed. The boy continued. Min Jong exclaimed that it was crazy. They were really going to fight like this, Jun Li. Jun agreed with the sheriff. The protagonist added that it really was crazy. However, this is the life of thrushes. The closest surveillance camera was in operation and recorded everything that was happening. The girl watching the scene was surprised why the demon transformation had dissipated. But it was interesting to observe this orc just a little more and would have become a demon of rank that sat in the office in front of monitors and could not understand how the brainwashing could have failed, since he had spent so much time infecting this orc. The girl began to lose her temper and stated that this is why she hated orcs. The office floor was covered with bodies destroyed by security personnel. Said he was no longer interested in the original plan. Maybe I should kill them all. Meantras Tanto, the orcs were still settling their differences and demonstrating their strength each other as a result of the alleged Kim Dog. B said he had managed to maintain his position. Victory in the duel was proof that his convictions were correct. Dog Bai had his brother, who gave this order not as a priest, but a successor to the great leader. His crimes were serious. The people would not forgive them so easily. Had to accept his guilt and suffer the punishment he deserved. The priest added that when his brother would be ready, was to return as a true orc and dedicate the rest of his days to serving others and to atonement. Doc P pointed out that it would not erase all his sins, but that without a doubt, there would be a place for him among the hunters. The priest could not stand up and also fell to the ground. The two orcs, having lost their strength, and made one next to the other. Min Jong couldn't take it anymore and ran to Kim Da Bi. Jun Li Jun commented that everything there had already been resolved. The protagonist looked at the surveillance camera and added that they had an unwanted guest. The girl behind the monitor saw his face on the screen and mused. "Who is this Jun Li Jun?" Pointed the coin and told the observer to stop staring at him. No doubt it was bothering him. The coin shot was accurate. Hit the surveillance camera with the speed of a bullet. The camera was shattered and shattered. The girl in the security room lost the signal. The image disappeared from the monitors. Was outraged. What had just happened? The stranger said you liked that guy, but who was he? Decided to take it over. The girl had a bet. After having fun for a while, I would do it, pieces little by little, and I would see him die in pain. A television presenter reported that the serial killer had finally been arrested. Turned out to be such a Mr. Pak that had been terrorizing the entire neighborhood. Mr. Pak was sentenced to life imprisonment, no possibility of parole. Would spend the rest of his days behind bars and would collaborate in the elimination of the gates. The rank hunter saw the news on his smartphone. And also, that guy really claims he had something to do with this home. Sok thought it was all true. Without him they would never have captured the criminal. The teacher confirmed these words. They had only found the criminal thanks to Hong Siak. Jun Li Jun prepared coffee and milk liquor, an old-fashioned for customers. Customers were satisfied. Hong Siak. For me it's free, isn't it? The owner of the Pablo confirmed, and added that the young hunter could ask for whatever he wanted. Hong Siak said he loves coffee liqueur. Because it is always growing. Is an authentic latte. But only for adults. And did not comment that old-fashioned is a classic. A bittersweet taste and pleasant intensity. The owner was happy visitors to enjoy the drink. Li Ruri saw the visitors and was surprised. One of them was just a child. It was really nice for me to drink something like this home. Sok got angry and said the girl was going back to her old ways. He was already 26 years old. The hunter showed his DNI. Rudy said the document was false. The ink had already vanished. The girl added that it looked like a cheap fake. Hong Sok kept complaining and insulting the girl, since she was trying to get him on purpose. Rudy told her uncle that she also wanted something tasty. Jun Li Jun prepared a cocktail and said he had almost the same one appearance, but that would taste much better to a girl. Li Ruri sat down next to her and started drinking her milkshake. The girl declared that she was sweet and attractive. Authentic latte. Kim Jin Ho commented that the girl was very cute. Hong Siak added that he loved it too. That drink when I was a child. Hong Siak asked if they had all returned safe and sound from the dungeon. Jin Ho thought it had been a reconnaissance mission. Everything had gone well and without serious injuries. Hong Siak commented that the last time he had entered the dungeon with a group, a hunter had died. Was a rookie from another guild, had not been seen before. Hong Siak added that there had been no moment dangerous, but for the rookie it was his first foray. The boy panicked and could not continue the commander's orders. Jin Ho admitted that it was sad. Hong Siak added that if the hunter had obeyed the orders, would have left without a single scratch. When rookies die for their own stupidity, there is only one thought in your head: it is a pity. Although Jin Ho could have been avoided, noted that now the recognition of the dungeons is carried out in a very thorough manner. Except in exceptional cases, almost everyone comes back alive. Jin Ho noted that even recounting the deaths of explorers in high volatility doors and dangerous dungeons, average survival rate exceeds 90%. This is because they are sent specifically to raids by groups of hunters whose strength far exceeds the door level. Jin Ho added that he had seen others die many times and seemed to have gotten used to it. Hong Siak stated that he felt almost nothing either. The hunter suggested that the incident in the first battle, after entering the dungeon, occurred because they simply had not had time to create an adequate bond. But it is most likely that in reality would simply have become to the death of others. That is the essence of a hunter's work. Hong Suk was not the master hunter in his day. Ruri asked for another cocktail, but the maestro refused. Hong Suk that effectively had been a hunter before. The guests asked what it was like working at that time. Was the atmosphere very different from today's? Jun Li-jun thought for a moment, and I thought the atmosphere was just slightly different. A failure. Bloodthirsty wandered the streets of the city, hunting down people and destroying them mercilessly. A man saw the corpse and trembled with fear, even paralyzed at the sight. The suspect lifted his victim and opened his huge jaws. The man with a sword in his hand. The man was ready to fight. But the sword saw the murderer swallow his victim, and became even more terrified. The suspect turned around and approached the gunman. The man was terrified and covered his face with his hand, but at that moment the mirror was cut in two. A hunter appeared nearby and asked him what he was doing there. The hunter reminded him that he had told him before. If the young man wanted to scream, had to act first and then ask the young man, with eyes wide open in fear, told the hunter that danger was approaching from behind. Behind the hunter Yun Li-yun, a huge mirror appeared. Suddenly the castle was destroyed. Another person went to the gym. Jun Li-jun said he had done it very slowly. I had almost given him. The group leader, Bi Xiaogu, commented that it wasn't that he was slow, but Yun Li-jun was too fast. The young man was surprised. Before him stood the same man, who destroys hundreds of castles with his own hands. Was the guardian Bi Xiaogu. Jun Li-jun told the keeper that this was a fan of his. Xiaodu thought things would have been different if Jun Li-jun had not stopped promoting himself. Jun Li-jun commented that this was not his style, was concerned about something completely different, wants to complete as many Moras as possible, and do so quickly so that he could get a little closer to his daughter. So Bi Xiaogu commented that Jun Li-jun says this as if he really enjoys it. Jun Li-jun that in any case, they had to put an end to those monsters before even more of them appeared. Wielding his sword, Jun Li-jun charged against the huge monsters, claiming that it would turn those insignificant. In Piccadilly, the young man, hunter, observed the professional's actions with his mouth open later. Told his friends how the boss had cut the Greeks to pieces with a single sword, while the guard had fought with his fists. Not a single stranger could cope with them together. Ended with more than 20 suicides, without suffering a single scratch. The leader of the Kim Hong group said that his combat skills deserved great respect. The magician of the group, Jago Hyan, commented that this guy was telling the story as if I had been in the middle of the action. Even though Kim had only been on the sidelines, Hong added that when you witnessed such a first-hand situation, emotions overflow. They felt the same way at first. The mere fact of failure, while these savages, was already an achievement in itself. Friends said that the main thing was to stay alive and have a beer together. Jun Li-jun gave a few drinks to a flask and said that was just what he needed. There's nothing better than a drink after a shift. Bi Xiaogu rejected the drink and said he did not drink. The protagonist pointed out that it was fruit saju. I had found the last bottle in the store. In response to a question, Xiaobu said there were currently 13 survivors. Jun Li-jun pointed out that this was not bad. Bak Algu was surprised what it means not bad. When they entered the door there were 86 of them. 73 were killed during the raid. You can really call that it's not bad. Jun Li-jun commented that nothing could be done about it. Who could have known that a door of rank B would suddenly mutate into one of rank 2? The protagonist added that in one way or another, the core of the raid had survived, and the cleaning was almost complete. Bi Xiaogu replied that his partner was right. Statistically speaking, everything was right. Xiaogu noted that the survival rate of hunters was too low. At this rate all hunters would soon die, and the world would be left defenseless. Jun Li-jun commented that he was already working at full capacity, but that this was the current situation, and there was nothing to do about it. Xiaogu replied that if they overloaded the system properly, could increase significantly survival rates. The problem is that novices and veterans alike are sent to the same place without any kind of training. If hunters are divided by rank and assigned forces adequately, the result will be different. Beak Xiaogu less urge them to stop throwing themselves blindly to clean more bitches. Need to take a break, systematize everything and carry out a reorganization. Jun commented that he could not do that. I had to move on because I was waiting for it. Xiao Goodie is really waiting for you. Jun got anger. What exactly did your interlocutor mean by that? Jolgu realized that at some point Jun had begun to repeat that name again and again. He kept insisting that he had to find his daughter. But Cholgu had known him for years, and I had never seen that girl before. Xiaogu added that Jun lied. Jun didn't even have a picture of his daughter. The Guardian noted that he only knew of its existence by the words of Jun. It's crazy to look for a girl, searching all these doors and more bitches. The guard dies if that girl even existed. Jun his partner and pinned him against the wall. The protagonist punched the wall, which was completely covered with cracks. After the next below the wall collapsed, Jun Xiaogu by the shoulder and told him to try to repeat those words again. Beak Xiaogu demanded Jun release him. Suddenly another person appeared in the room. The young people turned around. The man told them to calm down. I had already thought that an angel had attacked them. Yan, who kept holding the guard, continued to stare at him. The hunter told the chief that he was suggesting that they throw out a glimpse of what they had found. That was holding several bottles of wine. Recalled that the guard had mentioned his love for wine. Jun So-hyun noted that he had found a whole box of this wine. Jun-ho had already cooled it with his magic Jun. Jun that Riesling was the favorite wine of Xiao. Confirmed that indeed it was a good wine and also an orphan. They said there were no drinks, but what to drink that wine straight from the bottle was also fun. Gave it a special touch. Jun pointed out that even without a cup, the full range of flavors could be appreciated if the wine was kept in the mouth. During a moment, the protagonist gave the bottle of wine to the guard and said he had spoken out of place. So he apologized. Xiaodu apologized for bringing out a personal topic. The group of hunters met around the bonfire and drank the wine they had found. The hero roared loudly and struck the hunter with his claw. A large pool of blood formed. The surviving hunters their weapons and began to defend themselves from the savages who were attacking them. Pain Albu saw the rookie's body lying in a pool of blood and screaming in anger. One day the skies opened. Armed killers emerged from the other world that they once met collapsed overnight. Jun, as he cleared the rubble of the destroyed building, told Xiaogu to get out of there. It was then when the Guardian met with everyone's hope. A hero who without anyone's help, he carried toys and saved lives. The first hunter he saw with his own eyes. Jun as if emerging from a new world realized feats that humans did not even dare to dream of. As if it were destiny, Xiaogu decided to face the end of the world, elbow to elbow with this. Xiaogu was not alone. Like moths attracted by a blinding light, countless people whom he had saved also wanted to walk hand in hand with him, but to his great regret he was strong. Unlike the rest, there were many who wished to become his companions, but death was no less present around him. Fortunately, Xiaogu had found his strength. Although it was not as strong as Jun, his strength was sufficient to keep him alive. On this trip so far, Xiaogu observed the endless succession of casualties, but he never got used to them. Then he came up with an idea. If this war of attrition continued and the hunters died as often as possible, with which they arrived. New volunteers, colleagues who always seemed to be by his side, would begin to disappear one by one, until there was no one left at all. Kalgu thought that someday even he could not escape death. I would really end it all with the boss all alone. Even to that day the boss would continue to move forward, further and further away. It must have been a very gloomy life, and unbearably lonely. Beat Xiaogu thought Jin Xiao Haiyan had died. Another partner. But surely there must have been another way for hunters. One better than this. A huge pile of dead heroes stood before them. Jun Lijun said the wine tasted bitter. Xiaogu noted that only 7 had survived. The master added that at the end, less than 10% had survived. Said that this could have been avoided. Jun Lijun added that maybe Xiaogu was right. His partner said he no longer had intention to stand idly by, seeing meaningless sacrifices. Wanted to back to strengthen the hunter system from the inside. Yan Liyun would continue to move forward. The protagonist thought there was no other way. Xiaogu suggested that someday the time would come in which even the master would decide to stop. The keeper added that this is where their paths part. Jun Lijun said Xiaogu had made the right decision. Sin embargo, is nowhere near as cool as Xiaogu thinks it is. The protagonist added that the S are those who know how to look back. For now it does what it deems necessary. Trust your instincts and move on. The teacher said that even if they look in different directions, trusts Xiaogu's instincts more than anyone else's. After all, is the younger brother he is so proud of. Xiaogu thanked him and said goodbye. Told Jun Lijun to take care of himself. The protagonist said that they too should have a drink. The young man poured the contents of the flask on the floor and asked for forgiveness. Jun Lijun told his fallen comrades to rest in peace. The protagonist left the area where the fallen hunters were buried. Hong Xiak and Jin Ho continued to relax in the pub. Jun Lijun repeated that in the times when he was still inactive, things were different. If 100 people entered a dungeon, less than 10 came out alive. Hong Xiak said the teacher was exaggerating. That was in the time of the first-generation hunters. Jin Ho pointed out that he had also read in the books. Hong Xiak added that the master, I was talking about events 10 years ago. But the master did not seem much older than them. Hunters were divided into generations every 10 years. They were the 3rd generation. Those who had just graduated from Hunter's School were the 4th generation. Hong Xiak pointed out that today, even groups facing ranged dungeons usually return with everyone safe and sound. Jun Lijun proposed that modern hunters receive a very good education, are one step ahead of the old guard, and know how to act in a wide variety of situations without being paralyzed. Hong Xiak agreed. Hunter training program updated constantly to make the training more effective. The curriculum has already been revised for the 7th time. As the number of hunters grows, so does the number of dungeons with doors. Labor shortages continue to occur, but the working conditions of hunters are gradually improving. In Lijun that the world has become a little better home. Xiak realized that the teacher had an impassive expression. Everything he says sounds very serious. Hong Xiak whispered to his partner. And if the fact that the owner of the pub is hunter was also not an invention, maybe I was really just moving papers in an office, or working somewhere nearby with hunters. Jun Lijun said he had heard it all. The protagonist recalled a specific wine and offered to invite to a drink the young people. Hunters were very enthusiastic and said that they were undoubtedly signing up. Hong Xiak Wei Jin Ho tasted the wine and commented that it was excellent. Grape sorbet prepared for the girl. Ruri said she was sick. In the morning, read Ruri playing outside and looked around. The weather was fine and birds were flying everywhere. The girl was very happy to see the birds flying in circles around it. and even perching on his head suddenly. The sound of an alarm clock was heard inside the house. Lee Ruri said it was his uncle's alarm clock, which meant that he was up. Jun Lee Jun woke up and yawned extensively. No doubt I still wanted to sleep. The protagonist pointed out that he never sleeps enough in the mornings. Has to get used to going to bed earlier. The night before, Rory peeked out from behind the door. The girl smiled mischievously. Her uncle asked her why she was so restless today. Rory suggested going out and exploring the Junlegion neighborhood. I thought I was very tired and that he preferred to stay at home. The girl looked disappointed. His uncle said he would accept his request, but that he had to take a shower and that Rory would have to wait. While taking a walk around the city, Rory bought an ice cream. The girl said it was refreshing, cold and sweet. The girl realized that the sun was shining very bright today, so the ice cream suddenly seemed even tastier to him. Rory made a grimace of pain and said his head was starting to hurt. Jun Lee Jun commented that this always happened when trying to eat delicious food cold. All at once, Jun Lee Jun heard a familiar voice. The sheriff. I was talking to a boy and telling him not to even think of running away. Apparently he wanted to get into trouble. Why he had used his skills for extortion. Everything had been recorded on camera. Rory greeted his little sister Young. The sheriff also wished Rory good morning and asked him where they were going. Rory thought his uncle had a date. Minjun admitted that he did not know that the master were that kind of person. The teacher told the girl to stop talking. The sheriff continued interrogating the suspect and told Rory have a good time. Jun Lee Jun told the girl that he did not become someone as evil as the sheriff when he grew up. Rory promised him. Rory saw a clothing store later on, and immediately her uncle with her. The girl was completely transformed, after completely changing its appearance. After that, Rory and Jun Lee Jun went to it and stuffed themselves with cakes. The girl offered her uncle a piece of her cake, and invited him to take some. After a long and interesting walk, Jun Lee Jun and Lee Rory headed home. The girl was tired, and fell asleep in the shoulder's arms. After a while, Rory opened his eyes. Jun Lee Jun said he had finally woken up. Rory thanked his uncle, and said he had a lot of fun that day. Said she could walk the rest of the way alone. Jun Lee Jun told her to stay still. That Rory had almost arrived. Exclaimed that she loved it when her uncle carried her in his arms. Jun Lee Jun suggested that they keep silent. Rory asked his uncle what would happen if it turned out that his was not human at all. Jun Lee Jun was surprised. What I was talking about. Rory explained that it could look human, pretend to be human, but which in reality turned out to be being a hero. The protagonist. I thought that even if it turned out to be different from what it seemed, that wouldn't change anything, would remain himself. Like Rory, she would always remain herself. The girl smiled in response. The protagonist told the girl once again not to twist in his arms. She never listens to him. Hunter Kim Hwan was fighting monsters in the dungeon and realized that he had been too lucky. That morning Kim Hwan realized that it had all begun because I had drunk a lot the night before. But in the morning I had no hangover. I had only slept 4 hours. But apparently he had slept very well, because he did not feel tired. As always at that time the hunter listened indifferently to the television horoscope. The screen reported which would have one day today, full of good things. Then Kim Hwan prepared some ramen noodles to cure his hangover. The hunter decided he was lucky. 1 egg had 2 yolks. Kim Hwan admitted that ramen in the morning, after a night of drinking, is simply the food of the gods. Before going to work the hunter read his favorite comic book. In him his favorite hero finally took revenge on his enemy. And it felt good. Kim Hwan said it was time to go to work, and wore a black suit. As soon as the hunter approached the crosswalk, the traffic light turned green. Upon arrival at the bus stop, Kim Hwan saw that the bus had already arrived. Had arrived just in time. On the Kim bus, Hwan occupied the last available seat, and traveled comfortably all the way. The bus arrived without delay. There were no traffic jams or red light stops. Kim Hwan thought his luck today was clearly of S rank. The administrator of the Emanya dungeon reviewed his documents and said that to Kim Hwan. An easy day him. The hunter reviewed his assignment and realized that today he had to hang goblins. The mission had been assigned a rank D. Chain Mingyao said that was all that was left for a B rank hunter. To do something like this was bread and butter. The manager added that there was a problem. Kim Hwan was the only hunter available ready to go out. All the others were already on missions. Mingya added that he really didn't mean this, but that according to the standards, even in low-level dungeons, at least 2 people should enter. But if things left as they were, a fracture would soon occur in the dungeon, and then civilian casualties would be inevitable. Therefore an order was issued. B and higher-ranking hunters should or complete them alone or abandon the mission completely. Chaminade noted that it simply was transmitting the instructions of the superiors, but advised to wait for him to return another hunter before leaving. Even if the rank of the dungeon was low, anything could go wrong. Attempting to rush could have tragic consequences. The manager added that for Kim Hwan, defeating the goblins was a piece of cake, but that in the event of a situation could be dangerous. The hunter said he was ready to assume the mission himself. Mingya thought it was a sensible decision. Going there was just too dangerous. But wait for it to arrive. Someone else was also risky. The manager realized. I had not heard it. Kim Hwan. She had said it was dangerous to go there alone. No one would blame him if he wasn't. Kim Hwan said he had heard it all. However, if a fracture occurs, someone could be hurt. Sheriffs are also very busy at this time. And whether the records are accurate, the probability of anomalies is lower, to 5%. So everything will be fine. Choi Ming asked if Kim Hwan was really going to go. No one would appreciate the risks unnecessary that I was running. Even if the risk was minimal, there was no need to put yourself in danger. Kim Hwan. I thought if there was a way to avoid casualties, had no right to let pass that opportunity. Had to use his power to protect people. That was the first beginning of a hunter that had been discovered by the director. Noted that this was exactly what the guild master always said. Bi Xiaogu. By looking at Kim Hwan, I might think he was a rookie. I thought he had just finished his training. However, it was not in his power to stop it. Kim Ingus said he would take care of the paperwork immediately. The hunter was to try to return alive. The director added that if anything happened, Kim Hwan should have fled immediately. The hunter told Mingye not to worry about him. Kim Hwan added that he had been very lucky today. With his sword, the Leaf of Shadows, the hunter killed the killers effectively. Kim Hwan was more accurate than ever today. Every hit the target. At some point the hunter felt tired. Had already killed no less than 100 Colombians, but the end was not in sight. 5% chance of anomalies. That was not true. The dungeon had already mutated. Kim Hwan suspected that he had exhausted all his luck. That same morning, was now really in trouble. Goblins surrounded him on all sides. There was no time to catch my breath. One morning, Li Ruri told his uncle that his stomach hurt. Had Strong's Chun-Li. I thought it was normal. After 8 servings of ice cream, you shouldn't eat so much at once. Ruri admitted that he was very rich, and added that they should not have left the ice cream behind, where she could reach him. The door wide open, and the sheriff appeared on the threshold. Min Jung told the owner that he needed help. The girl noted that Kim Hwan was in trouble. Li Jun asked the sheriff to quickly explain what had happened. Min Jung explained that the hunter had entered the dungeon and had not yet returned, despite the fact that the time limit had apparently already expired. Had been unlucky. The dungeon had mutated. At that time there were not enough hunters, or Sure, so no reinforcements were coming. In addition to that, I had to stop another man's smile. Jin begged the master to save Kim Hwan. The protagonist was already on his way to the dungeon. The manager greeted the teacher and told him that she was glad to meet him. Man Jun had told him a lot about him. Kim Mingyu noted that he could not trust retired veterans. However, now there was no other option. Time was running out, so I had the master. Mingyu admitted it was his fault. Should not have sent the hunter alone. Jun Li, I thought he shouldn't be angry. It was nobody's fault. The teacher added that all had been working tirelessly. Kim Hwan had simply been unlucky. But that wouldn't last long. Things would soon be back to normal. Jun Li Jun added that there was no reason to worry. Would undoubtedly protect its customer. Mingyu said he trusted the master. Jun Li Jun looked at the empty potato bag and sighed. I barely had time to eat them and there were never enough. Chae Mingyan noticed that everything was just as they had said. This man gave off the aura of a professional. Experience. The experienced professional tried to scrape the last fried potatoes out of the bag. Realized that lately, the portions had become quite small. Before entering the dungeon, the protagonist decided to take a gun and took a brick. Yun Li Yun stated it was time to leave, as they had to protect the visitor to the dungeon. Originally this word meant subway prison. Now, however, refers to the doors of access to other worlds that disappear only after certain conditions are met. When a dungeon appears, the Hunters Guild sends a recognition team to assess the threat level. Dungeons are classified from S to F, with a total of 7 levels. By sending hunters of the right rank, humanity could increase significantly their chances of survival. However, sometimes more special bitches appeared that made the results of the recognition promising. Mutations were occurring within the structure already studied, filling it with factors: infinite regeneration and the appearance of mutants. The difficulty in completing such dungeons is significantly higher than its indicated range. Hunters call this phenomenon the appearance of a singularity in the dungeon. Dungeons with singularities have claimed the lives of countless hunters. Yun Li Jun realized this was strange. If they were reproducing as actively as indicated in the instructions, should have already appeared. I was expecting the goblins to come on en masse. To be this cave really is deep and spacious. Goblins are vile monsters, the perfect incarnation of the beginning. Strong against the weak, weak in the face of the strong, have an incredibly high reproduction rate. Under favorable conditions, their number grows at a frenetic pace, just like cockroaches. When the population becomes too large and food reserves are depleted, resort to cannibalism, mercilessly devouring the weakest members of the tribe. In terms of height and intelligence, are no different from normal children. An adult can easily defeat 1 or even 2 goblins, thanks to its excellent night vision. Feel at home in the caves. Goblins know they are weak on their own, so they always stay together in groups. If the goblins were just a little smarter and stronger, they would be the ones to rule the world, and not humans. Yun Li Jun realized that the power of goblins was becoming increasingly unbearable. Should appear soon. The protagonist cited a single goblin and said it was his first visitor. As a token of affection, I would do him a special favor. The master employed a perfected top-secret technique. Over the years from home, the goblin was hit in the head with a brick. Was the first blow and an instant victory guaranteed. Jun Li Jun took the elf. Had liked the hit. Another elf appeared behind our butt. The teacher said that the next visitor should not have become so jealous. There were many more delicacies on the menu. Using an empty potato chips bag, The protagonist managed to grab the goblin dagger by the least. Jun took the knife and thanked the elf for the gift. Looked at the gun and said it was a dagger made of scrap metal. With its next move, our grandfather stuck the knife in the elf's neck and said it was perfect. While continuing to attack, Jun pointed out that if a weapon is too long, it is extremely uncomfortable to drive in narrow caves. The master looked up and saw a group of goblins approaching. Jun suggested that they take turns and not pile up. Or is it that goblins have their own preferences? After another blow, the knife that our grandfather had in his hands broke. The teacher put his hand in his pocket and said that with tips like that, those goblins did not look like normal customers. Jun took a flashlight out of his pocket and turned it on. The bright light blinded the goblins. The boys squinted their eyes and began to cover them with their hands. The light was unknown to them and was harmful to them. Jun observed that modern flashlights were incredibly powerful. The technology had reached a whole new level. Our grandfather nailed the broken dagger to the eye of the nearest suspect. The protagonist snatched a club from the elf's hands and began to soften it. Baking Asians flew off in all directions. The boy saw a stone axe in the hands of one of them. Goblins. A moment later, that axe was already there, cutting the skulls and bones of the shoulders. Our hero continued the bloody battle, however. Looked more like a game of gold days. Jun warned the goblins not to get into a fight if they knew they had no chance of winning. There was even a single goblin here willing to listen to it, threatening them with punishment. The protagonist said he was willing to forgive them, but on one condition: they had to raise their hand if they had seen another person there. A story about him could save them. Jun thought it had been many years, but the goblins had not yet learned to understand human language. Why he had even bothered to talk to them. Suddenly a huge mirror emerged from the darkness. The protagonist thought, this could be the entrance of the mini-boss. Must be a warrior elf, but it has no place in a dungeon of the rank of. This is undoubtedly one more brunette with a singularity. Jun decided he had no choice. Would destroy all the heroes until he encountered Kim Hwan there. At some point, the master calmed down. All the goblins around him had been destroyed. The guy looked around and said that he had. There have been enough goblins. Jun claimed to have killed about 50. However, they seem to be reappearing. The protagonist moves if that was really the typical behavior of goblins. The one who seemed stronger limited himself to watching from behind. Jun stated that this sly scoundrel was not worthy of being called a warrior. The teacher said he was already getting bored. Would show this Tuesday something interesting. The major goblin sent his henchmen to attack the man. Jun really thought have become braver just because they are too many again. Did not stand it. The protagonist decided to play a little with the monster. One of the goblins approached stealthily from behind and attacked our killer, hitting him in the back. The master lost his balance and fell flat on his face. The shoulders pounced on the man and began to hit him with their weapons. The goblins did not stop beating Yan. Blood was splattering everywhere. The most veteran hero showed his courage and approached the man lying on the ground. I was sure it was not in danger. Jun was surprised by what the goblins were doing. Should not be celebrating too soon. They had better look closely. The teacher had said that the goblins should pay attention to who exactly were with the pool of blood. The older goblin looked at the victim and was horrified. After all, he was one of his own. On average, goblins' vision is 1/10 of that of normal. As they hardly see anything, it is very easy for them to get angry. That is why they often do not even realize what they are doing. Jun he realized that even if he placed one of his own in a line of fire at the time of the attack, would not notice at all. The master pointed out that if the goblins were to, even a little smarter, would pose a much greater problem for humans. Yun. thanked the goblins for continuing to be as they were. Stupid and low-level heroes. The goblin older man got scared and tried to flee as far away from man as possible. The master wondered if this creature could be called even goblin. The strongest of them turned out to be the biggest coward, Jun the goblin on his head, and asked him where he managed to flee to. The only way out was to cross the river. As still of the hunter, Kim Hwan, standing on his shoulder, said that those goblins stink unbearably. Kim Hwan decided to take a snack and took out a pack of protein bars. The hunter said that they had already passed 27 hours since he got trapped in this dungeon. When rescuers would arrive, considering that they were understaffed, it'd take a long time. Kim Hwan didn't know how much longer he could last there. This could be your last protein bar. The hunter moves and Jess, if I should start eating goblins as in dungeon delicacies. But Kim Hwan was definitely not capable of that. Had heard that goblins eat each other when they run out of food. Apparently, have strong stomachs. The hunter said that in fact, one could die doing that here. If I had known it would end up like this, it would undoubtedly have formatted the hard disk of its computer. Kim Hwan heard a delicious noise and turned around. Behind him was a huge goblin, who had knocked down another goblin. The goblin opened his mouth and prepared to devour his prey. The hunter watched the scene with horror and disgust. The big elf began tearing the victim's flesh with his teeth, and to devour it. The hunter was surprised. A goblin could actually eat one of his own. I had never before believed that such a thing was possible. This one looked exactly like a demon. The elf had turned into a demon. Kim Hwan is sore, and assumed that this goblin had not yet, noticing its presence, should attack. In that case, the hunter decided it was a bad idea. I was quite tired and I didn't know how loud that noise was. It could attract others goblins. The young man thought that in situations like this, the best option was to sneak away unseen. Before I discovered it, the boy sensed that something was wrong, and began to sniff the air and listen carefully to. Kim Hwan prayed in silence so that the boy would not see him. Jen decided that they had already taken care of the goblins of this area. Had to move forward. The teacher said he had reviewed everything thoroughly. However, no trace of hunter Kim Hwan Young was found. Lee Jun said there was nothing to do. We have to go down lower. Our grandfather went into Kim Hwan's throat, tried to flee from the cannibal goblin as quickly as he could. His pursuer followed closely. Small goblins appeared in the hunter's path, began to them in different directions. Kim Hwan even apologized politely as he made his way. All I needed, the hunter, was to get the goblins out of their way. Kim Hwan unsheathed his sword. If they did not get the hint, they would have to use force. The hunter gained the ability Shadow Blade, and the pieces of the goblins flew away in all directions. The pursuer was distracted, trying to swallow the scattered parts of the goblins. Kim Hwan thought this boy was a real glutton. Decided to eat in the midst of persecution. The cannibal angel threw another piece of goblin aside. Did not like the taste. The hunter said it was unseemly to waste food. The boy followed the rhythm. Kim Hwan thought there was no way to escape from his pursuer. Will not solve anything. However, to face this failure head-on was too risky. At some point the hunter realized that he was escaping was no longer possible. Had reached a dead end. Kim Hwan thought that if things had ended like this, and there was no other option, then it was finished. I could not defeat by itself the goblins that reappeared without ceasing. Therefore completing the dungeon was impossible. That meant he had to hide until the search team arrived. However, it would not be easy eluding the senses of this creature that resembled a dungeon chief. Yet if I managed to finish off just one of them, maybe Kim Hwan could make it. Unsheathed his sword and thought the boy had seen it, fleeing because of what I was probably underestimating him. If it managed to choose the moment when the boy would let his guard down and hit him with a powerful blow, their chances of survival would be greater. But I only had one chance. The suspect approached the dead end and remained where the man had gone. The fire was going out, and the boy realized that the man had been there just a moment ago. Anticipating a death, the elf began to sniff, and here suddenly a sheet flared in the dark, and the goblin was wounded. The sword appeared from the darkness, where the shadows swallowed the light. The elf could do nothing. The sword struck him, and his body began to bleed. Kim Hwan thought that by turning into a shadow would devour the flame of life. The hunter came out of the shadows and continued, blow after blow. Kim Hwan thought he had not yet perfected this technique. Sin embargo, now he needed to put all his strength into the coup. The shadow blade skill was activated once again. Something unexpected happened. The blade of the hunter's sword broke. The boy laughed. A piece of the leaf had remained stuck between the teeth. Kim Hwan was surprised, for this boy had broken his sword, which was stronger than most alloys. The hero, the hunter, and punched him in the shoulder. Kim Hwan was shot to the side. The goblin the hunter by the arm and lured him towards. Yes, the boy kept hitting the Kim man. Hwan could do nothing to stop him. The hunter began to cough blood. His condition was deteriorating rapidly. The boy screamed triumphantly, considering himself the winner and preparing to devour man. Kim Hwan thought that one too was too strong to be a goblin. Something did not add up. The boy did not eyebrow in his endeavor. His thirst for blood had suddenly clouded his judgment. A hole appeared in the wall behind the hunter, of him leaving a hand, and a voice said it would not allow the boy to deliver the final blow. The wall collapsed and Yan Li Jun inside it. The teacher declared that he would not allow the boy to touch the customers of your Jun Li Jun the goblin by the arm, and went on to say that no one would dare to touch a human in this dungeon. While he was watching, the protagonist realized that this goblin, unlike the others, overflowed with power. But who was he going to hit? Yan Li Jun hit the monster and it was crushed. The master kept knocking. The corpse, bleeding profusely, fell backwards, struck a blow, decisive, and the left shoulder flying backwards. The master declared that this goblin was finished. Kim Hwan, surprised, asked how the maestro was doing. Jun Li Jun was that man. Young had come to him for help. The boy was still alive, but Jun Li Jun said he would tell the hunter the details later. For now they had to finish what they had started. The elf tried to defend himself, but did not do very well. The protagonist dodged the attack and counterattacked the Colombian. Jun Li Jun hit a series of powerful kicks in the jaw and the upper body of the goblin. The elf tried to do something, but he was no longer in control of the situation. The protagonist easily dodged the slow chest strokes. It seemed as if the master was playing with the elf. Jun Li Jun said that now would demonstrate a blow that would turn his opponent. In Piccadilly, the goblin fell to the ground again. The beating of the boy continued, but now exclusively with Kim Fi. Hwan marveled at the master's strength and agility. The goblin had not managed to deliver a single blow. What kind of movements were those? The master's actions were impossible to predict. Jun Li Jun assumed that this time the goblin was finished. However, the master was wrong. The elf jumped to his feet and hit a blow. Unexpected. Jun Li Jun trying to block it at the last moment. Our grandfather apologized and began to dodge the mayor's attacks. Once again, it seemed as if the goblin had regained strength. The master became furious and counterattacked his opponent. Once again, the goblin lost his balance and faltered backwards. Jun Li Jun continued to strike a series of blows at him. The man said it had been a long time that no one had ever made him so angry. The protagonist warned that now would hit much harder. After them, the boy would no longer be able to get up again. The boy's blows became effectively stronger and more intense. The elf continued to spit blood, and once again was unable to resist. After a series of blows, a huge corpse appeared on the corpse's body. Their vital functions were altered. The corpse lay again on the ground. The body showed no signs of life. The master thought it was finally over. Li Jun shook hands and breathed a sigh of relief. Kim Hwan was surprised. Had really defeated the master to such a indestructible. The teacher said he had waited, something different from a visitor to your. This hunter had managed to hold out until his arrival. Was just a nice guy. Li Jun threw a flask of liquor at Kim Hwan and told him to have a drink. If his body hurt, that should help him. Kim Hwan took the opportunity and took a sip. Realized it was whiskey. The teacher said he always had the right drink on hand. Kim Hwan noticed that he really felt better. Now he felt as if he had returned from the dead. Too bad it was not a health elixir. Li Jun told the hunter that once they got out of there, real doctors would get him in shape. Judging by its appearance, Kim Hwan would still be able to walk on his own foot. The hunter admitted that it hurt. The whole body after the boy had shaken by the cave. Kim Hwan looked around. Li Jun asked him what he was looking for. Kim Hwan asked where the rest of the rescuers were. The teacher thought he had come alone. No one else had been sent there. The protagonist told the hunter to recompose himself, since the boss had already been defeated. In addition, all the goblins that had met along the way had also been defeated. That is why the dungeon could be closed at any moment. Kim Hwan couldn't really believe it. The master had organized a rescue mission by himself. Li Jun said it was time to go upstairs and extended his hand to him. The hunter had to move if he wanted to live. Once back in the, Kim Hwan admitted that this time, I had thought I would not make it out alive. Min Jung. Could someone as this Hwan die just like that? He always clings to life tooth and nail. The sheriff stated that she had no doubt that everything would work out well this time too. Had not been playing at all. Kim Hwan thanked the girl for her help. Min Jung was surprised. Why all of a sudden you are so polite? The hunter explained that he knew it had been she who had asked the teacher for help. If Li Jun had not appeared in time, things would have gotten worse. Min Jiang turned around in an embarrassed air and said he had found out by chance and had told the master. Added that he had not cared at all about Kim Hwan. Kim Hwan thanked the girl once again. The owner commented that for someone that was not inside seemed quite restless when she ran in looking for help. Li Jun added that the sheriff's eyes were full of snow, but that she had asked him to keep it a secret. Min Jung was outraged while Kim Hwan smiled. The sheriff realized that Kim Hwan's gun had been torn to pieces. The hunter admitted that there was nothing left of her. Min Jung was not that level T10 sword. Not so easy to break. The hunter thought he used to think the same thing too. Sin embargo, the chief of the goblins had driven his teeth into the blade, and it had been shattered. Min Jun suggested that the sword may have worn out, as it had been a graduation gift. Kim Hwan said he did not roll it out. Even the best weapons have a point. The sheriff asked him what he would do next. It was not easy for a swordsman of his caliber to run out of weapons. Perhaps it should lead to repair. Kim Hwan thought to begin with. Would pass through the plant. 24 from the Jiaosan Blacksmith Center. Min Jung was surprised. The hunter is serious. After all, that is where the beard workshop is located. One of the 5 best blacksmiths in the country. Min Jung. I thought if that sword was really that legendary. Kim Hwan. I thought he himself had not expected it at first. I knew it was a high-quality object, but I didn't know it had been manufactured by Domaine Barbados. Li Jun asked if the visitors were referring to this blacksmith, dwarf so famous men. Jun was surprised. The master really knows him. Li Jun said he hadn't heard that name in 100 years. The protagonist could not believe that the young bearded man was already among the 5 best warriors in the country. Turned out to be a very talented young man. The sheriff was surprised at how wide the connections were. By Master Min Jong. Added that it was known that the master met the leader of the Bichialgu Guild. And now it turns out that he also meets a famous blacksmith. Jun Lijun confirmed that they had crossed paths in his youth. Kim Hwan commented that the more he knew about the maestro, more questions arose. Min Jong asks who really owned the bar. Jun Ri-jun thought he was a simple hunter. Customers know this very well. Is now just a retired hunter. Min Jong commented that in order to be a mere hunter, the master is too strong, overly receptive, and agrees to any request. The teacher is an exceptionally decent person. Kim Hwan added that the owner always avoids give direct answers, getting away with it with vague phrases. The hunter thanked him, the owner once again, for saving his life. Jun Ri-jun thought it was nothing. It was natural for a bar owner to protect its valued regular customers. Regular customers were surprised to hear the owner's confession. Jun Lijun said he didn't like the talk. If the hunter was grateful, he could ask for more. The guests' glasses were already empty. The sheriff ordered another beer. The waiter offered to prepare him, the hunter, a cocktail of his choice. The hunter asked if the sheriff paid for herself. The girl confirmed it. We're celebrating their return from the dead. Kim Hwan thanked him. Jun Lijun commented that it reminded him of something. The owner decided to prepare the cocktail. His name meant resurrecting the dead. The waitress explained that in the past, people with hangovers were compared to the dead. So this cocktail was considered the perfect hangover remedy. Was mentioned for the first time among the hangover remedies of the last century. The recipe had not changed in more than 150 years. A legendary cocktail. The waiter prepared the cocktail and congratulated the hunter for his safe return. Kim Hwan tasted the drink and said it had a taste, intense lemon with sweet orange notes. Also had touches of bitter herbs and aniseed aroma. Kim Hwan said it was very tasty. The host was pleased to have pleased his guests. The hunter was surprised. They really drank something so strong for hangovers at that time. This is clearly over 30 degrees. Jun Lijun pointed out that at that time people used to consider it beneficial. If you drink a little when you have a hangover, you feel better. But in reality, you just get drunk again. Simply postpones the hangover for a while and places a greater burden on the liver. The owner added that the best hangover remedies are drink plenty of fluids, a moderate intake of sugar and vitamins. Menjon received the beer just thrown from the barrel. The waiter had just changed it. Sheriff commented that fresh beer after work always tastes incredibly good. The girl asks him to repeat that. The owner said he would take care of everything immediately. Kim Hwan, I thought what each one ate to recover from the hangover. Min Jong thought she ate hamburgers. Jun Lijun said he preferred rice soup. Kim Hwan was surprised. Why hamburgers? After all, the sheriff is not an American. Min Jong, trying not to be judged. That food is simple and works great. Kim Hwan noted that in these cases he was carrying the fried pork. The sheriff heard talk about this method to combat hangovers for the first time. The hunter added that in the cab drivers serve soy soup with pork quickly brings you back to reality. After the pig you feel full and fat. Min Jong agreed that the food there it is really fascinating. The hunter added that the dishes sautéed in the wok are mind-blowing. Those are much better than many star restaurants. Michelin perfect seasoning and sealing are surprised every time. Min Young said that now she also wants to eat there. Kim Hwan suggested passing by on the way home to enjoy a good dinner. In a restaurant, the owner was standing with a helmet, with his head tilted submissively. The woman told him to know where he belonged, added that he owned nothing more than a cheap restaurant. How dare he Did she know what kind of family she came from? The man in the iron helmet remained standing in silence, with his head tilted. The pub owner handed him a hot towel. The man masked. He took the towel and thanked the owner. Jun assumed that today had been a hard day. The customer was surprised. How the waiter knew it. The owner thought you could see his face. The visitor nodded. The owner was right. Today something unpleasant had happened. Jun looked at the man's hands and then suggested that the wedding preparations were not doing very well. The visitor thought that the owner, as usual, was perceptive. Our grandfather assumed that this guy. I was very concerned at the time. He was in full swing and things were going very well with his girlfriend. The masked man thought that was true. I was actually thinking of marrying her. But it looked like it would take quite some time. Its approval. The boy pointed out that his future mother-in-law was adamantly opposed to. She had stopped by again that same day, and had told him to break up with his daughter. Had also given him an envelope with money. After he refused, she threw water in his face. Jun suggested that the water could have leaked through the hole. The visitor agreed and added that in this case, they wouldn't have to worry about staying hydrated today. We will have to start a new family. With someone is not easy at all. The man in the mask added that the most important thing are the feelings of the couple. But it is also the union of two families, not only of two lovers. The visitor added that it is very difficult. As a hunter, you never know when your time will come. 1 second of carelessness is enough to lose one's life, even if the level of the dungeon is lower. The probability of dying simply decreases. But no one knows what can happen. Jun noted that survival rates have increased significantly recently. But the danger has not disappeared. The masked man added that because of this, the visitor has to live in fear every day. Said that his girlfriend had once confessed something to him. Every time he went on a mission to the dungeon, she was so sick she couldn't sleep. The man in the mask told him that everything would be fine, that he had nothing to worry about. Took her hand to calm her down. At that time, realized that everything was far from going well. After all, if he was still a hunter, could leave her alone someday and die. His scarred hands spoke louder than words. The visitor. He added that he stared at his hands for quite a while, then lifted his head up and looked her in the eye again. Unlike the girl, radiant and that I had once met, now seemed exhausted, had spent sleepy nights worrying about his face, had lost its luster because of these concerns. Looking her in the eyes, the young man made a decision. The man with the mask realized it was time for the visitor to retire. Added that he had always wanted to be by his side. Wanted to be a source of strength for her, not a cause for fear. So he quit his job as a hunter and retired immediately. The man added that he still remembers clearly how happy I was, her, and the great relief she felt. She blamed herself for the fact that he had to give up everything because of him. But he could not hide his joy. This only shows how much Jun had suffered. Admitted that he saw the young couple after the hunter retreated. It was very good for him, because they started to look much. The visitor said that these words encouraged him. While working as a hunter, had managed to save an amount, considerable money, but I didn't believe that person could simply leave doing nothing. That is precisely why the decision was made to open a restaurant. The visitor added that he is a good cook and that he is undoubtedly has a lot of energy. Jun agreed. The pit of the night is simply amazing. One ration never seems enough. The knight noted that with regard to taste, there is no one to surpass him. Now his customers and thought he had finally found his vocation. But seeing how little his future mother-in-law liked him, realized that he had a long way to go. The pub owner admitted that reality is always harsh. Winning someone's approval is never easy. Realized that he was expecting it, but it still affected him more than Lurie thought it would. approached the boy and told him that the uncle, he should have eaten those candies and not be sad. The sooner he ate them he would feel better instantly. Sweets cure better than any doctor. The boy thanked the girl for the detail and said he already felt a surge of strength. Ruri commented that the candy was simply a toy. The boy nodded. Nothing lifts your spirits like candy. The masked man dies. The owner is really preparing something. Has not yet asked for anything. Young Lee Jun with a cocktail shaker in his hand. I thought it would be a drink on house's account. He had come up with a cocktail recipe and wanted to prepare it especially for the visitor. The owner added that it would be a variant of a martini, gin-based. The classic martini only has gin. But this cocktail will also include. Mix them well in the cocktail shaker, and then the two completely different drinks will merge harmoniously, creating a new martini flavor. There's no greater expectation than the meeting of two different people who build a solid family. The waiter added that even if his life was good, they should not have let that separate them. Jun Lee Jun held him a drink and said it was a Vesper martini. The owner added that from what he had heard, the man in front of him was a very decent person. It was only a matter of time that his future mother-in-law will also take possession of him. Suicide without removing his mask, tasted the prepared cocktail, then said he was playing. The visitor thanked the waiter. Was a true elixir of vitality in one glass. The owner was glad that the visitor liked his cocktail. Luri approached her uncle, squinted and smiled. A man walked into the pub, greeted everyone politely. The owner asked him what the visitor wanted. The man smiled and said he had found everything. Man became to the chest and told him that he had, playing from the beginning. I had guessed I would find this guy here. The masked man turned around and realized that the man who had was his future father-in-law. The boy was surprised how his father-in-law had ended up here. The man thought he wanted to meet the boy, so I asked Hyun Young where I could find him. She replied that she would most likely find him here. The boy waved again man and invited him to join him. The man said he would gladly accept the offer. But first the father-in-law wanted to do something, bowed to the mirror and apologized for his wife. The boy said he felt, and that there was no need to bow to him. The man explained that his family, I have only had 2 generations in the construction business. So the business was not that big, and the family was not particularly influential. Jun Lee Jun thought, if even the president of Korea Construction considers that its business is not that large, and that his family is not very influential, the rest of the business community should stop calling themselves influential people and bragging about their money. The boy slapped his father-in-law on the back and said that family, who had raised a daughter like Hyun Jiang, it just had to be impressive. The man admitted that indeed his daughter had become an extraordinary person. Asked him if his son-in-law came there often. Often drove past. But I had no idea such a place existed. The boy thought this was his favorite pub, the tavern. Hunters were regular customers, but ordinary people barely knew him. Jun Lee Jun greeted the guest once again and said he was pleased to see a customer's father-in-law there. The man usually shook his hand to the owner and told him that he liked the place. I would now go through there from time to time with a warm welcome. The owner said he was always happy to see new customers. The man sat at the bar and asked for a chain visa to begin with. The father-in-law was relieved to see that his son-in-law was much calmer than I expected. Had feared that the young man would remain furious. The boy admitted that he was a bit discouraged. But if he was angry about his mother-in-law's actions, that would only bother Hyun Young. The analyst added that the hunters were used to this type of treatment. The man masked. He realized that things had improved significantly lately. When hunters get married, families tend to react in one of these 2 ways. Or accept them with caution because of their fame and easy money, or point it out with the finger calling butchers who could die at any time. The son-in-law realized that the bodies of the hunters are different from those of ordinary people from the beginning. That is why they do not usually listen to kind words addressed to them. However, that have to see things that are even worse is an inevitable discomfort for both parties. That's why hunters have their own places, resting places. The man said he had heard that the son-in-law had been a hunter before opening the restaurant. Why he decided to retire? The boy thought he wanted to be near Haiyan. The man added that, while working as a hunter, his girlfriend was very worried. Snow was very dangerous. So after careful thinking, decided to live as long as possible to protect her. For the rest of his life, the boy added that he no longer wanted to see his pants. That is why he retired and returned to a normal life. Said that her daughter had actually found a husband. Excellent. Whoever raised this young man can be proud of him. The father-in-law asked to what extent the young man managed to get under his skin. At this rate, even he was willing to fall in love with this boy. Son-in-law thought it was an honor to hear such words. The man told the boy that he will not lend attention to his wife's words. She had heard all kinds of gossip and without thinking had spoken maliciously. The boy said that it only showed how much he loved his daughter. The stated that in that case would no longer care about his mother-in-law. The man thought that soon she would be able to love her son-in-law. The father-in-law asked what the young man was drinking. The boy thought he had a Vesper in his cup. The father-in-law pointed out that it was precisely of the cocktail that James Bond invented in the film Casino Royale. Say that the recipe was created by the best friend of Ian Fleming of our bride. Ritzar commented that the father-in-law, I knew a lot about cocktails. The man thought he liked them, both beverages and films. At that time, the most important thing for him was to enjoy, have a drink and watch a movie after work. Ritzar thought he had not seen anything for years, although it did not detach from the screen before. The director of the construction company asked what kind of movies his son-in-law liked. John and Reed Rory watched from a distance how future in-laws approached and talked, and an emergency announcement was reissued over the a huge discovery had appeared in the sector Silas. Sheriffs are on their way and resolve the situation soon. All citizens are asked to address immediately to the nearest shelter. The woman was sick. Why this had happened just today, when the shipment was supposed to arrive? Why the government always lets these things happen? Why her husband pays so much tax every month? Suddenly a passerby pushed the woman to one side. She was outraged how she dared to do that. Did he know who she was? The orc looked back and said he didn't care. Was not going to die there. If he had the strength to survive, he better run out of there. The woman began to hesitate, demanding that the scoundrel return immediately, and apologized. The victim looked back and saw a bus rushing uncontrollably towards her. Was terrified, closed his eyes and took his hands to his head, trying to protect themselves. However, nothing happened. After a moment, the woman opened her eyes and saw something incredible. In front of her was a masked corpse. In one hand I carry a shopping bag, but the other held the bus to prevent it from falling off. The woman was saved. Many people witnessed the scene. A brave boy had saved a woman. Could actually be a hunter. The hero became to the woman and told her that she was glad that mom would be unharmed. The masked man carefully lowered the bus to the ground and told the woman to put on safely in a safe place. Now had to help the rest of the civilians evacuate. The woman looked at the street deserted and was surprised. An unknown passerby. The retired home instructor also decided to help. The passerby turned out to be President Pichalgu. Added that this man's behavior had given him hope. The assassin saw the president and greeted him. Noted that it had been a long time since they had been seen. 2 years had already passed. Pichalgu thanked him. To the boys who had responded to the emergency call, despite his retirement on Tuesday. I thought that simply had a duty to protect this area, since he lived there. I also knew that at that time, there was a shortage of hunters. In that case, Pichalbu suggested that they go to take care of the gym. The boy said he had to finish before dinner. Today it was his turn to cook for his girlfriend. The former hunter added that if they were delayed, would charge you overtime. The president replied that he would not mind paying double. The woman was puzzled. What was going on there? I thought her daughter's boyfriend was just an ordinary ex-hunter, and I didn't know it was related to a person. So respected Yoon Lee. Yoon hand in hand with Lee Ruri walked down the deserted street. The teacher said that they had bought many things today. Ruri realized that the shopping bag was very heavy. His uncle explained that the bag, it was heavy because the girl had put all kinds of things in it. And then, Ruri realized they were treats. The master added that, while he was unpacking the purchase, Ruri had put them back in the basket. I wasn't sure the two of them could eat it all. The girl reminded him that when it came to sweets, his stomach had no bottom. Playing Lee said that if Ruri did not listen to him, I would choose to eat sweets. The girl thought it was inhumane. The maestro took a sumo out of his bag. The girl said she had kept that sumo for herself. The teacher said he was thirsty, and that the sumo was really delicious. Ruri said she also wanted that sumo. Jun Lee Jun warned them that the girls had to go to bed early, and that it was not a good idea to drink juice before going to bed. The girl pointed out that the guy was drinking the juice himself. Jun Lee Jun thought he still had work to do, so he would not be going to bed anytime soon. At the entrance of the Jun Lee Jun saw a child lying on the ground and moves. Who could be the child who was asleep? Or perhaps unconscious? Jun Lee Jun took the child home and put him to bed. The boy was spinning in bed and murmured in dreams that he wanted to sleep. 5 more minutes. The boy turned around to the other side. Lee Ruri was sleeping next to him. Suddenly the boy woke up and was startled. Who was at his side? Looked at the girl and told her that I had given her a good scare. Screamed loudly in fear, but the girl continued to sleep. The boy thought it was not surprising that he had been frightened. When she woke up, she was right in front of him. But who was she? Although he looked familiar, looked around, trying to figure out how it had ended up there. The owner of the pub, as usual at that time, was ordering the bar. Jun Lee Jun heard a noise. He turned around and saw the boy coming down from above. The boy saw the man and asked him who he was and why he was in that house. Jun Lee Jun realized that he was the one who should ask him questions. The boy, as he had been lying unconscious in front of the bar, the owner pointed out that the boy could have cold lying on the bare floor. Jun Lee told him if the boy didn't want to talk, did not have to respond. The boy thanked the man. The owner said he would give him a phone, the child, so that he could call home and notify your family, as they must have been concerned. The boy thought about it for a moment and said he had no family, that I was alone. Jun Lee said that everything was clear now, and asked him if he had somewhere to go. The answer was no. Jun Lee thought that this was just another adventure with which he would have to deal with. The boy stood in silence with his head down. It was clear that I really had nowhere to go. Suddenly the boy's stomach growled. It was clear that I was hungry. Jun Lee Jun suggested that he sit in a corner. The pub owner said he would prepare something quickly, realizing that the boy was hungry. In a short time, a sandwich called egg bomb and mayonnaise was ready. Was served, freshly squeezed orange juice as a side dish. The owner told him if it wasn't full or wanted something else, just had to ask for it. The boy thanked him. The boy tried the sandwich and couldn't help but say he was playing Jun Lee. I thought I didn't doubt it, since he had prepared it himself. The boy ate the sandwich and thanked him for the delicious and nutritious food. The owner told him that if the boy had nowhere to go, could stay there for a while. Added that he would look for a place for him where he could stay longer. The boy accepted. Ruri went down the stairs. The girl said it smelled very good there and greeted the boy. Ruri pounced on his uncle and said she also wanted to eat something delicious. The teacher promised to prepare the same for him. The boy was surprised. Could really be Lee Ruri. The girl took her breakfast and said that she had gotten it. Mission candy accomplished. Ruri offered the boy some delicious food, but he had to promise to keep it a secret. The boy playing. She is Ruri number 17. The only test subject to succeed. The boy said his name was Noah. Was number 37. Had been created in the same laboratory as Ruri. 1 year ago, Noah faced a huge man with a mass. He had a metal tube in his hands. The man kicked the boy in the face, and Noah ended up flying to one side. The boy stood up with a jump high in the air and counterattacked his opponent with both feet. The blow hit him squarely in the jaw. The man moaned in pain, but the child remained standing up, jumped on his shoulders, and continued hitting him. The masked man fell backwards. Noah jumped on him and punched him several times. A man in a robe, white, came into the office and told the boy to stop. Applauded and pointed out that defeating a rank hunter convicted of a crime without even resort to demonization was much more impressive than I had expected. The man added that the experiment was over for today. The boy had performed well. Noah looked in silence at the adult. The hunter was still lying on his back. The man said that the subject 37 had successfully passed the experiment. The problem was that when I woke up, would go crazy and lose control of his mind. However, he remained the best test subject of all those that had been created. Enro entered the room holding the girl's hand. The man thought that if it weren't for the researcher he would go away. In number 17, he would be the best. Noted that Enro was benefiting from his results, thanks to pure luck, and said to number 37 that he would strive hardest to become the best specimen. The boy stared at the girl. She was the only case successful in which the awakening had not been accompanied by demonization. Number 17. Noah thought that the researcher, Enro, had named the girl Ruri. The boy envied her, wanted to arrive the day he also had a name and could run. The boy said his name was Noah, which was number 37, and that they had been created in the same laboratory. Ruri stated that he was someone. No doubt he was wrong. The girl turned around and ran away, shouting that he had no idea of what that guy was saying. Noah was surprised. I had really said something wrong. Junli told the boy that he and Uncle Doc they had to be absent for a while. The boy had to be attentive to everything. The teacher added that there was food on the table and that I could eat when I was hungry. Ruri nodded. Kim Dobby was surprised when he was called uncle, since he was not even married. Junli pointed out that the priest was already quite old, so he deserved that title. Ruri asked the child if he wanted to eat. The girl added that she was very hungry, and that the food should be eaten while it was still hot. A nutritious breakfast for children appeared on the table. Ruddy said it looked very good. The girl agreed that she looked very good. Noah moves. What was that characteristic smell? The boy admitted that he had never seen food like that in his life ever. Disappearance of your body. I was screaming that she must have been incredibly sick. Red Ruts. It's the first time Noah has seen something like this. They certainly don't serve this in the laboratory. Noah was surprised. I had just said that I didn't know anything about any laboratory. Ruri asked the boy to pretend not to have heard anything. Noah promised Ruri. I guess she does too. I would pretend that nothing had happened. No longer mattered. The children tasted the food, and they agreed that it was very rich. The girl said there was juicy meat, drizzled with a sweet and sour sauce. Ruri told Noah not to be shy and to eat faster. The guy is a great cook. Noah started eating very fast. Ruri looked at her and surprised the girl. It really is so good. The first time he tasted food, so he couldn't stop eating either. Noah admitted that he looked amazing. Such delicious food could really exist in the world. Ruri agreed that the food prepared by his uncle was the most incredible. Noah stated that he had simply gone crazy with food, was incredibly fat. The boy turned around and ran out of the room, saying he wanted to take a walk. Ruri stayed behind to finish his meal. Noah stopped to the side. The boy was embarrassed, But the dish was incredibly delicious. Nora said that even after passing for all these experiments, Ruri could still laugh with such joy. He envied the girl. The boy thought that if he got too far away, to get lost and not find a way back. Nora turned around and decided it was time to go back. A man in a robe of light laboratory appeared on the road. This time the man's face was burned. Said he had finally found the number 37.